the girl unexpectedly transmigrated into becoming the child's stepmother. Not only did she gain an ugly husband and son, but her husband was also a lunatic who liked imprisoning people. After going crazy for an entire day, Liar finally accepted reality. Now was not the time to be sad. If she wanted to survive, she had to get along well with her husband and son. But between the cold husband and the crazy son, which one should she win over first? At that moment, voices suddenly came from outside the window. She looked up and saw a cute little boy. In the next second, her whole body trembled. If he was a child from this residence, then wasn't he that crazy son? Such a cute child was actually completely different from the cruel pervert in the novel. So, the adorable son smoothly defeated the husband. But Liar, who had never raised a child before, had no idea where to start. The original story also mentioned that the male lead had a very bad relationship with his mother. She could only hide in the shadows with the maid and secretly observe. Looking at such a cute child, she truly couldn't understand why the heroine would just leave him alone. Unexpectedly, she was discovered the very next second. Who's there? Liar could only come out awkwardly and greet him. Unexpectedly, the little guy ignored her completely and turned to leave. Liar naturally didn't want to miss such a good opportunity. She immediately grabbed her son's sleeve. "Cuddy, can you stay?" Unexpectedly, her son shook off her hand again and shouted, "I don't want a mom." And because he ran too fast, he accidentally fell. Faced with his suddenly affectionate mother, Cuddy was also at a loss. "You usually never care about me, so why are you pretending to care now?" After saying that, he ran off angrily. Only a bewildered Liar was left behind. Even by nightfall, she was still thinking about what happened during the day, wondering if Cuddy's injury had gotten any better. It seemed their relationship was even worse than she had expected. But suddenly getting close really would make her son feel at a loss, so it seemed she had to take things step by step. Seeing the letter on the table, she suddenly thought of a way. She had the maid deliver the letter for her. She hoped that this way, she could get a little closer to Cuddy. The next day, the moment Cuddy woke up, he saw a gift placed by his bedside. Though he was still complaining with his mouth, his hands had already moved first. After opening it, inside was a teddy bear doll, a letter, and a pink box. As he unfolded the letter, every line was filled with Liar's concern and motherly love. Cuddy couldn't understand it at all. Why had the mother who always found him troublesome before suddenly become so gentle? He didn't notice at all that someone had appeared beside him. He hurriedly stuffed the letter into the drawer. Who would have thought the servant had already seen through everything? He secretly collected every single letter. Should the gift be thrown away as usual too? Cuddy looked at the teddy bear doll, but hesitated. In the end, he only threw away the box and left the doll in the room. He even pouted stubbornly and said, "It's not because mom gave it to me. It's because I already liked teddy bears." He even asked the servant to help deliver a reply. On the other side, Liar was thrilled when she received the reply. She had thought that after so many days of effort, it had finally paid off. Unexpectedly, when she opened it, it said, "Whether it's letters or gifts, don't send them anymore." Still, even if it was a rejection, at least it counted as a response. Sure enough, she still had to take it slowly. As for winning over her husband, she would set that aside for now and focus on Cuddy first. So she asked the maid where Cuddy was now. The answer she got was, "In the courtyard." Could it be that he wanted to see me? She quickly dressed up and immediately hurried to the courtyard. Sure enough, the little guy was sitting there alone. Looking at the pastries that had been prepared long ago, he hadn't taken a single bite. "Could it be that you were waiting for me?" Blushing, Cuddy haughtily said, "No, this is just where I usually come. Then I'll stay behind and watch you eat." I absolutely won't disturb Cuddy's rest. So she darted behind him and stared at her son eating dessert with the gaze of a love-struck creep. Today's Cuddy was, as always, super cute. However, a week later, Liar looked at the pile of invitation letters on the table and fell silent. She rapidly wrote replies that looked like copied and pasted templates. This was not the time for socializing. Watching Cuddy eat cake in the courtyard was very busy work. For this, she even specifically wrote an observation diary. "Today, he saw me frown. So cute. When I talked to Cuddy, the way he ignored me was also very cute. Today I greeted Cuddy and he nodded. So cute." Even the maid couldn't help sighing at this bizarre train of thought. "Madam, did you hit your head? Isn't this more like an enemy observation diary?" She hesitated before suggesting that they show it to the young master. Unexpectedly, it immediately sparked Liar's interest. "Do you think that if Cuddy sees it, our relationship will become closer?" She couldn't wait and wanted to head out at once to show it to her son. Only the utterly bewildered maid was left behind. Could Madam really have gone stupid? Who could have imagined that this would actually improve their relationship? Using a teddy bear lollipop, Cuddy successfully lured her son into the room. Unexpectedly, the furnishings in the room didn't look like a child's room at all, but she unexpectedly discovered that the teddy bear she had given him was lying obediently on the bed. The little guy tried to cover it with a pillow and said awkwardly, "I just haven't had time to throw it away yet." "So, why exactly did you come here?" Liar took out the diary like she was presenting a treasure. Mom wrote this. Do you want to read it? Seeing how shy she had looked while flipping through the diary just now, she should still be an innocent child who didn't understand love. She definitely couldn't do something like imprisoning someone, right? At that moment, a flock of pigeons flew across the sky, and Lyre casually asked her son, "If you encountered a precious bird, what would you do?" Cuddy answered absentmindedly, "Then I'd make it an exquisite birdcage." Lyre was still happy, thinking that her son really was kind after all. At least he knew to prepare a beautiful home for the bird. But then she heard Cuddy continue, "Since it's a precious bird, it should be locked up and not allowed to go anywhere. Beautiful things should be kept behind to admire." These remarks deeply shocked Lyre. She wanted to take back everything she had just thought. No matter how she looked at it now, this really was the male lead as a child. Yet he still asked with an innocent face, "Why isn't Mom saying anything?" Lyre could only smile awkwardly. Cuddy's thoughts surprised Mom a little, but inside, she was panicking badly. Exactly which step had gone wrong? Could it be that the male lead had always been different from others since childhood? What on earth should she do now? From that time on, Lyre thought every day about how exactly she should educate the child. So much, so that even when the maid called her several times, she didn't hear. "Madam, what's wrong? Is there something troubling you?" Lyre thought about it and still decided not to tell the maid, who knew that the maid would start guessing on her own. Was it because the master was about to return? The maid's words made Lyre freeze instantly. The master she was talking about was her husband, wasn't he? A child's matters should be faced by husband and wife together, and she could just use this reason to talk to him. She immediately formed a plan in her mind. Get close to the husband for the sake of the child. So she asked when the Duke would return, probably within these 2 days, and we will also move to another place to live. This sentence directly left Lyre dumbfounded. What did that mean? Recently, Madam has been very affectionate toward the young master, and the atmosphere in the residence has become much better than before. So, I'd like to ask Madam a favor. When Master returns, could you welcome him just once? Lyre was practically on the verge of tears. Just how bad had the original owner's relationship with her husband been? So she agreed without hesitation. After all, a bad relationship between husband and wife would also affect the child. Tell everyone in the Duke's residence that I will prepare a grand welcoming ceremony. My lovely child absolutely must not become someone whose hands are stained with blood. Since I became this mother, then I will definitely save him. When the maid heard this news, she was thrilled beyond measure. She immediately ran off to make preparations. While happily humming and dealing with documents, Lyre suddenly thought of something. My husband. What exactly is his name? Meanwhile, the Duke, who was almost home, suddenly grew sad. Was he going to be turned away again this time? He wondered whether she was home or not. But unexpectedly, there were many people standing at the entrance of the Duke's mansion. The Duke was utterly shocked. This was the first time anyone had come to welcome him, and his wife had come in person. "Duke, I've been waiting for you all this time." The Duke stood frozen in place for a long while, then suddenly spoke. "Am I hallucinating? Hurry and call a doctor." His subordinate knight hurriedly reminded him, "This isn't a hallucination." But the Duke still couldn't believe it and kept staring at Lyre. Only when Lyre reminded him, "Outside is very cold. Let's go inside first," did he react. Maybe she really did hurt her brain from that fall last time. He spent a long time preparing himself mentally before finally deciding to walk in. Lyre even specifically had the maids leave space for the two of them to be alone. The Duke warily looked around. Why wasn't there a single person here? All he saw was his smiling wife. This was the first time he had seen her smile like this. His hand uncontrollably wanted to rest on his wife's shoulder. "Let's go eat first," the Duke asked in confusion. Going to the dining room, "Is there something you want?" Lyre smiled and pulled out a chair. "I have something I want to say to you." The Duke's hand gripping the back of the chair gradually tightened. Sure enough, she only acted like this when she wanted something. Just a moment ago, she had warmly welcomed him, but the moment they sat down to eat, the two of them fell into a sulky silence. Lyre was also very depressed. What was wrong with this man? He was actually being so cold to a wife who had specially prepared everything. She angrily cut into her steak, thinking about how to bring up the topic. Duke, I have something I want to say." The Duke still had an indifferent face. "Then say it." Lyre could only force herself to speak. Managing the territory must be very hard.
It really isn't an easy task.
After hearing this, the Duke directly put down his knife and fork. "Don't you want me to get hurt even more?"
Just say it.
"What exactly do you want?" Lyre could only keep smiling on the surface, while in her heart she had already beaten him up with a whole set of military boxing. This guy was way too guarded. "I want to talk to you about the child's education." Faced with his wife's sudden change, the Duke simply couldn't believe it for a moment. "Don't you hate me? Why are you pretending to be close to me?" Lyre hurriedly rushed over to explain. "No, I'm not pretending," but because she was too anxious. The next second, she fell straight down. Fortunately, the Duke rushed over and caught his wife in one swift motion. Lyre still wanted to say something, but because her stomach hurt too much, she couldn't say a single word. The man who had just been mocking his wife coldly finally could no longer suppress his feelings for her and shouted out loud. He anxiously demanded to know why she had suddenly become like this. Lyre couldn't help complaining too. "How can you even ask? I welcomed you so warmly. Not only did you not thank me, You kept wearing a sour face through dinner. How could this body of mine, which just recovered, endure that? The Duke turned his face away, sadness in his expression. Didn't you hate me very much? As long as I got close, you would shout at me to get away. As he spoke, he held Liar's hand. Right now, it's like you don't remember anything at all. Your hand was really cold just now when I touched it. Even if you don't like me, let it stay like this for now. The doctor, who hurried over, broke this ambiguous moment. The Duke also stepped back at the right time. And just like that, Liar's carefully prepared get close to the husband for the sake of the son plan was completely declared a failure. Why was it so hard to become close to both men in the family? Early the next morning, Liar was woken by birdsong and worked hard to review yesterday's plan. It seemed that the warm dinner approach wouldn't work. Even now, her stomach was still churning. She could only hurry to think of another method. Just then, there was suddenly a knock at the door. Liar looked puzzled. She had clearly said not to let anyone in. If someone still came at a time like this, then it had to be Cuddy or the Duke. With an excited heart, she opened the door. What she saw was her adorable son standing there holding a teddy bear lollipop. She appeared calm on the surface, but inside she had already done countless somersaults. Her son must have come because she was sick. Faced with his excited mother, the little guy haughtily turned his face away. Hurry up and eat it. After you eat, your mood will get better. Liar smiled as she accepted it. Thank you, son, for being so thoughtful toward mom. Faced with his mother's beauty attack, Cuddy's face instantly turned red with embarrassment. Yet he still stubbornly said, "It's not like I wanted to come. The maids told me to." Even though Liar clearly knew what the little guy was thinking, she didn't expose him. No matter what, I still thank Cuddy for being willing to come see me. The little guy blushed and kept staring at Liar. Suddenly, like a little grown-up, he crossed his arms. If eating with dad makes you so tired that you get indigestion, then don't eat with him anymore. Liar thought this was the little guy showing concern for her, so she explained with a smile. Once I get used to it, it won't happen anymore. Who knew Cuddy's expression would suddenly darken? You mean, you're still going to be with him in the future? Liar felt helpless inside. I don't want to either. But isn't it all for your sake? But Cuddy suddenly shouted loudly. Didn't you say you'd be with dad? Then be like that at mealtimes too from now on. After saying that, he ran off quickly, and only then did Liar suddenly realize that the little guy was probably jealous of his father. She immediately stepped forward and hugged the angry Cuddy. To mom, Cuddy is the most important. The time I spend with Cuddy is more precious than with anyone else. Looking at her son, who still wasn't saying anything, she thought he still disliked her. Unexpectedly, the next second, her son gently hugged her back. Mom, if you're sick, then sleep properly and remember to eat my chocolate, okay? Unexpectedly, having such a cute child was such a happy thing. A few days later, Liar finally recovered, and she even specially prepared a gift for Cuddy. It was something she had made by hand after consulting the head chef. She hoped Cuddy would like it. She came to the courtyard full of anticipation, and sure enough found that the little guy was here. When he saw Liar come, he actually even took the initiative to ask how her body was doing. After sitting down, Liar took out the cake she had made by hand. The moment the little guy saw it, his eyes instantly lit up. He impatiently picked it up and took a bite. In the next second, however, his little face was filled with sorrow. Under the gaze of two expectant eyes, he said, "It's super awful." But after learning that it was made by mom herself, he began lowering his head and eating fiercely. Liar couldn't stop him even if she wanted to. While eating, he still explained, "I'm only eating it because I'm fine." After finishing one piece, he wiped his mouth and actually wanted another piece. Liar looked at the little guy across from her with emotion. How is this some crazy male lead? He was clearly just an ordinary and adorable child. "Thank you. Mom will keep working hard." The next day, Liar decided to continue carrying out the get close to the husband for the sake of the son plan. So she excitedly knocked on the study door. The one who opened the door was the Duke's assistant. Liar carefully walked to the side of the desk. There are some things I'm not very clear about. Can we talk alone?" Unexpectedly, the Duke directly refused his wife with one sentence. "I'm busy." That icy tone was like falling snow in winter. After saying that, he even added, "Didn't you hear me? I'm busy. Please leave." As a highly perceptive professional employee, the assistant immediately said that he would leave right away. "There's no need for that. Go back to your place." This left Liar completely speechless. Didn't he even have time to talk alone with his wife for a moment? In the end, she could only leave helplessly. The moment she stepped out, she ruthlessly hit the Duke with a whole set of dragon subduing palms in her mind. It seemed this Duke husband was not easy to win over at all. She could only find another excuse next time. The next day, Liar stayed in her room seriously thinking about which fairy tale book she should read to her son that afternoon. At that moment, the maid handed her a letter. When she opened it, it was actually a reply thanking her for attending a child's birthday banquet. Liar was full of confusion. Hadn't all those invitation letters been declined before? She suddenly remembered that last time, because she had been talking with the maid, she had missed one letter. She could only wail helplessly. A birthday banquet. Unexpectedly, the maid who heard this from the side suddenly became full of energy. "Are we going to prepare a birthday banquet for the young master? Although it's still early, I will definitely work hard to prepare it." However, the name Marquis Finn sounded like something she had heard somewhere before. She suddenly remembered. that wasn't the blonde, handsome man in the book, the one who worked in the Land Administration Bureau? But if it was the Land Administration Bureau, then wasn't he the person Cuddy killed later on? At that instant, Lyre's feelings toward her son became incredibly complicated. The current Cuddy probably wouldn't kill anyone, right? That's right, I must raise him into a normal child. Meanwhile, the Duke was still waiting for his wife to come looking for him. Ever since that carriage incident, he had become very strange. His wife in the past was always cold and distant. She had also never smiled at him. But recently, his wife always found all kinds of reasons to come see him, and her face always carried a smile. He was even secretly thinking whether his wife would also come smile at him today. Even the ink was about to soak through the page, and he noticed nothing. This love-struck appearance nearly scared the assistant out of his wits. Madam seems to have come later than usual today. Should I go take a look? Unexpectedly, the Duke himself stood up directly, using the excuse that it was too stuffy inside and that he wanted to go out for a walk, leaving only the tragic assistant alone to face a huge pile of documents. He even didn't forget to remind him at the door, if you want to find Madam, she often goes to the courtyard. I wish you a wonderful time. Just as he walked near the library, he heard his son shout liar. Immediately after that came his wife's voice. Why is our Cuddy saying that Mom is a liar? Didn't you say that I was the most important? Do you really like staying with Dad that much? When the Duke heard this, he instantly lost his composure. But before he had time to be happy, he heard Lyre say, of course being with Cuddy is best. The little guy still unhappily pouted. Lyre gently took her son's hand. Actually, Mom wanted to ask Cuddy whether he wants to go with Mom to Marquis Finn's birthday banquet. Then, do we also have to bring a gift? After hearing the affirmative answer, his tears suddenly started falling uncontrollably. You have never prepared a birthday gift for me. Those words also suddenly made Lyre recall the original owner's memories. What the little guy wanted on his birthday was nothing more than a simple blessing from his mother. But what he got in return was only coldness and neglect. Unexpectedly, the original owner could be so excessive even toward a child. Just thinking back on it was enough to break one's heart. Lyre tried hard to soothe Cuddy's emotions. I'm sorry. Mom shouldn't have treated you like that. From now on, Mom will never leave you alone again. It took a great deal of effort before she finally managed to coax the little guy into stopping his tears. Then should we make our Cuddy's birthday banquet a little grander? At first, the little guy refused, but the moment he heard that there would be a very large birthday cake, he was still deeply tempted. Yet his words remained, Sundra. Whatever. Unexpectedly, the gift Cuddy wanted most was only a single birthday blessing from Mom. Thinking of how lonely he had looked before, Lyre felt even more heartache. Then, tomorrow, give a little time to Mom and we'll hold a party in the courtyard you like most, okay? The Duke, who had been hiding outside the door all along, also heard all the key information. Tomorrow there would be a party in the courtyard. For this, he even forced the assistant to work overtime with him. He finished all the work in advance. The next day, he even came to the courtyard very early. Yet he discovered that they had no intention of calling him at all, and they had even already reached the part where they were singing the birthday song. Amid everyone's blessings, the little guy also blew out the candles. Lyre always felt as though someone was staring at her. When she turned around, she met the Duke's gaze directly. Duke, what are you doing here? What are you all doing here? Lyre pointed at the people in the courtyard. As you can see, we're holding a birthday party. Cuddy said he doesn't like too many people, so we only invited a few close ones. The Duke suddenly became a little unhappy. Why do you always do such abnormal things? Lyre also couldn't help complaining inwardly. A man who always said he was very busy, why had he suddenly run here again? Thus, the two of them began speaking in a blunt, straightforward manner. For some reason, Lyre could only recall bits and pieces of the original owner's memories. Faced with the Duke's questioning, she was also utterly confused. But even so, she still didn't forget to invite the Duke to participate in Cuddy's upbringing. Unexpectedly, the Duke suddenly asked a completely irrelevant question. Since just now, you've been calling our son by his nickname the whole time. Then why is it that when you call me, it's always Duke? Duke? You don't mean to say you don't even know my name, do you? Faced with her husband's questioning, Lyre froze on the spot. She had clearly even asked the maid before, but because she had never called him by it, she had still forgotten his full name. She had originally wanted to play dumb and muddle through it, but who knew the Duke would keep pressing her step by step. In her panic, she could only call out that term of endearment. Kian. The Duke's heartbeat instantly fell out of rhythm. Though he kept a calm face, he quietly turned his head away. Lyre even thought she might have called him by the wrong name, since she couldn't remember his full name and had only used a nickname on the spot. She awkwardly explained, because I wanted to call you that, Kian. Is that okay? But the Duke could no longer take in her explanation, and only one sentence remained in his mind. She used to call me Duke, but now she's calling me Kian. Could it be that she is finally starting to open her heart to me? If this keeps up, I might just... The next second, blushing, he threw out a line. I still have something to do, so I'll be going first. Then he disappeared from Lyre's sight, walking stiffly with both arms and legs moving in sync. The moment the Duke left, Cuddy came running out right after him. He grabbed his mother's skirt in one go. What did you and father talk about? Nothing much. Lyre thought to herself, Could this child be hoping for his father's blessing? But that possibility had never crossed her mind. So she apologized to her son, saying, "Is it because mom didn't invite dad to the birthday party that you're unhappy?" Actually, father also wanted to give Cuddy his blessings, but he was too busy and left before he had the chance to say hello. But what the little one wanted was not his father's blessing at all. He just wanted mom to go back and eat cake together with him. Lyre could not help screaming in her heart, "Our Cuddy is just too adorable." Under everyone's gaze, the little one ate the cake bite by bite. He did not forget to ask mom whether she would continue giving him her blessings in the future. That adorable look melted everyone on the spot. "Every year from now on, I will give Cuddy my blessings, and future birthday banquets will be held even more grandly." As she spoke, Lyre unexpectedly began to cry. There was also a voice gently sounding in the depths of her heart. "I hope you can forgive me just once, even if I can't hear it." Seeing his mother suddenly burst into tears, Cuddy panicked at once. "I heard that eating sweet things makes people feel better. This cake is really delicious, so you should try some too." Lyre opened her mouth and ate the cake Cuddy handed her. She did not know whether it was because that strange memory had suddenly broken in, making her feel as if she perhaps should not be this happy. A few days later, Lyre finished replying to the social letters, but she suddenly had no idea where she should go. Her son became a little upset because she had gone to him late, and he demanded that she go see him first next time. On the other hand, Lyre, as usual, also went to see the Duke every day. This time, he unexpectedly kept her there. Then he asked, "Can you come see me first this time?" Lyre was about to be driven crazy by this father and son pair. How could they be exactly alike even in this? She was only one person, so how could she possibly appear in two places at the same time? Just as Lyre was troubled, the maid proposed a solution. And so, the scene before them came to be. The three of them stayed in the same room, yet none of them spoke first. Lyre pretended to lower her head and drink tea, but no matter how she thought about it, she could not understand how things had turned out like this. This could not go on. So she wanted to speak up and ease the atmosphere. But unexpectedly, she had only spoken 2 words, when both of them turned their heads at the same time. "Were you calling me? What is it?" Even Lyre herself had not expected that and could only awkwardly explain, "I wasn't calling you, Duke. I was saying clever." She had not expected that the Duke would care so much about this casually made-up pet name. Lyre could only add another sentence, "I was calling our Cuddy." Even without looking up, she could feel the Duke's gaze. Lyre chose to ignore it directly. "Do you still remember that we agreed to go celebrate a birthday?" Cuddy, having gained the upper hand, was especially smug. "Do you mean the time when just mom and I went together?" He even deliberately stressed the words "just mom and I." Hearing that, the Duke at the side unconsciously snapped the pen in his hand and was completely unable to focus on his work. In order to stop Cuddy from bullying the Marquis, Lyre made an agreement with Cuddy that he should get along well with children his own age. Cuddy also obediently agreed to his mother's request. He was so well behaved that Lyre could not help wanting to praise him lavishly, but before she could even finish speaking, she was interrupted by papers flying all over the room and the Duke's exaggerated coughing. Seeing this, Lyre could only walk over and show some concern. "Are you all right? Should I call a doctor over?" The Duke did not answer, but instead reached out and took hold of his wife's hand. "Do you like our son that much?" Lyre was stunned by the Duke's sudden question. "Of course, that's our son." The two people who heard that sentence were both very happy, one because of the words "are," and the other because she said of course she liked their son. Lyre had not expected these two to be so easy to satisfy. Compared with how guarded they had been at the beginning, they seemed like completely different people. The mother and son wore matching outfits to attend the birthday banquet, but the little one secretly tugged off his tie underneath. Then, he coquettishly asked mom to tie it for him again. She had just finished tying it when the person who suddenly appeared behind them startled them. "Are you here to see us off?" The Duke quickly made up an excuse for himself, saying he just happened to have something to go out for, and even the assistant could not help shaking his head after hearing it. At the crucial moment, the assistant had to step in and save the situation. "Madam, what a coincidence. Your route today happens to be exactly the same as the Duke's. Would you like to take the carriage together?" Before he had even finished speaking, Cuddy rejected it on the spot. Lyre also felt that today's carriage was a little small and might indeed not be able to fit everyone. But looking at the atmosphere between the two of them today, she felt that something was strange. She guessed that the Duke wanted to get closer to his son, but Cuddy kept refusing because he was shy. As a mother, she naturally had to lend a hand, so she suggested preparing another carriage so the Duke and Cuddy could ride together. Their expressions instantly froze at the same time. Then they immediately walked off in opposite directions. Lyre already had a feeling that she had probably said the wrong thing again. She could only silently get into the carriage, but the little one still seemed not to have calmed down. Lyre had no choice but to use the method of temptation. "I heard that Marquis Fin's prepares super delicious desserts at every party." Sure enough, the moment desserts were mentioned, Cuddy's eyes lit up. "I even specially asked them to prepare Cuddy's favorite walnut pie." The little one finally could not hold back and revealed an expectant expression. But in the next second, he remembered that he was still angry. "I'm not the kind of child who only likes to eat." Not long after, the carriage arrived at Marquis Fin's residence. After getting out of the carriage, the little one even very gentlemanly, held his mother's hand as she got down too. The moment they entered the residence, they saw many exquisite desserts. Watching Cuddy clearly being happy but still pretending to be displeased, Lyre only found him unbearably adorable. Ahead, Lady Finzel also personally came to receive them. Lyre had always longed for the Marquis family's image sphere. That thing was like a camera and could turn photos into an album. She eagerly asked the Marchioness where exactly such a thing could be bought. Her cheeks could not help but grow hot. While Cuddy wore a cold expression. "If you take one, I won't let you off." Lyre could only sigh regretfully that, despite being so cute, he could not leave behind an image. Next, it was time for each of the two to face their own battlefield. Lyre followed the Marchioness into the courtyard, but before she could even sit down, she was met with a round of sarcastic barbs. "So this is the Duchess of Ropala. Now that everyone is here, may I ask a question? I recently bought a dog. I don't know if it's because it cost too much, but it completely refuses to listen to its owner." As she said this, she turned to look at Lyre. "What do you think, Lady Ropala?" Lyre was bewildered by the sudden question and had no idea what the other woman was hinting at, but she still honestly gave her opinion. "Perhaps you should teach it patiently and slowly train it to behave better." The two people beside them immediately cut in. "I think a dog isn't worth that much effort at all. If it doesn't obey, just get rid of it directly. No matter how expensive the dog is, if it can't recognize its place, it's better to replace it." Lyre immediately realized that their words clearly carried another meaning. Weren't the dog and the owner referring to her and the Duke? What exactly was wrong with this woman? Fortunately, after saying that, they did not continue the topic, and Lyre could not be bothered to respond anymore. Who would have thought that the fat woman deliberately came looking for trouble again? If the Duke allows you to invite guests to the estate, a husband ought to listen to his wife. So I assume you should be able to invite me as well. Lyre could only decline, saying that she did not have the Duke's consent and that it would not be very convenient.
"Oh dear.
It seems the Duke really treats you." Before she could finish speaking, she was directly interrupted by the Marchioness. "I also keep a very adorable pet parrot, but sometimes I simply cannot understand the things it says. It always blurts out rude things for no reason, and I have no idea where it learned them." Lyre was so moved at the side that she nearly burst into tears. The Marchioness was clearly taking her side, so she immediately cooperated and asked, "Then how do you correct it? What else can be done? After all, it's only a bird. How could I dispose of it just because it says a few rude things? It's not as if it went behind my back and had an affair with a royal knight." The fat woman beside them instantly flushed red at these words. Seeing that her affairs had been exposed, she only threw out a sentence, "I have something to deal with," and then fled the courtyard in a fluster. Those followers around her also immediately slipped away after her. After this scene, Lyre's admiration for the Marchioness became like a surging river that could not be stopped. Only the two of them were left in the courtyard. Meanwhile, the enemy from the previous life also appeared. The very first thing that Boy did upon arriving was unexpectedly to compare who had been praised more by his mother. Cuddy was sitting by the table eating walnut pie, but he was interrupted by the boy who suddenly ran over. Cuddy looked disgusted. If his mother had not specially instructed him, he would never have played with such a childish kid, but he still generously took out a piece, ready to share it with the other boy. There was even a note of showing off in his tone. "This is walnut pie specially made by my family chef for my party. It's delicious, right?" "It's not delicious at all." After saying that, Cuddy remembered his mother's words, that he should get along well with the other children. So he could only silently listen to that boy chatter nonstop. But when he heard the sentence, "My mom praises me every day. Does your mom do that too?" Cuddy finally could not hold back any longer and immediately wanted to compete with him. "My mom praises me often, so much that I'm almost tired of it." "I don't think so. My mom definitely does better than your mom. You have no idea how often my mom praises me." And just like that, the two of them stood there comparing for a full minute. "Mom," until later they were interrupted by a fat boy. The moment that child arrived, he pointed at Cuddy. "My mom says he's a wild dog with barbarian blood, and anyone who plays with him will be cursed. Anyone who plays with him will be cursed." Hearing this, Cuddy merely coldly asked, "Can you take responsibility for what you just said?" That single sentence frightened the fat boy so much that cold sweat began pouring down. At that moment, the disheveled fat woman who had run away also came to find her child. Seeing this, even Cuddy could not help but complain. He really does look like his mother. Meanwhile, the two mothers were still exchanging thoughts on raising children. All of a sudden, Lyre felt as if her head were splitting apart from pain. A strange memory suddenly rushed in. A man pointed at the young Lyre and angrily shouted, "You must use your face to build connections with the nobility." It seemed that man should be the original owner's father. After recovering, she prepared to go find Cuddy and go home, following the Marchioness toward the courtyard. On the way, she was still thinking about whether Cuddy might get into a fight with someone else. After all, she still remembered those scenes from the novel very clearly. But in the next second, she heard that Cuddy had cried. She immediately ran toward where it had happened. The moment Cuddy saw his mother, he immediately sobbed and threw himself into her arms. "Who made my child cry?" In Lyre's view, bullying her was one thing, but bullying Cuddy was absolutely unacceptable. "Lady Chatty, You had better explain exactly what happened. The fat woman trembled all over and stammered out an excuse. My child just said one thing wrong. He said that your son has barbarian blood in him. But you know, what children say to each other is nothing more than a joke. Do you really think something like this can be treated as though it never happened? I'll only say this once. Apologize to my son. Seeing that she could not muddle through it, the fat woman could only drag her son along and apologize together. The boy also had no choice but to step forward and admit his mistake with a wronged expression. Unexpectedly, the fat woman still wanted to reach out and touch Cuddy, but Liar immediately shielded the child behind her, and she warned her coldly, I will not allow someone who hits children to touch my child. I will leave this matter to my husband to handle. In Liar's view, the child himself was not at fault. The fault lay with the adults who did not know how to teach a child to be good. No one should raise a child in such a rough and careless way. That is why I cannot forgive you. After saying that, she took the little one home. In the carriage, she also kept softly comforting Cuddy. Originally, she had thought that the deranged male lead from the novel would be the one bullying others, but she had not expected that Cuddy was, in the end, only a child. I'm sorry. Mom should have stayed by your side. I already did get along well with the other children. So Mom, please don't leave me anymore. Those words made Liar's heart ache terribly. Ever since coming here, she had been trying hard to make up for the maternal love Cuddy had lacked. But she still could not understand why the original owner had treated her own child that way. In Liar's heart, Cuddy was no longer the male lead of this world, but her true son, someone she genuinely held dear. At that moment, the little one suddenly puffed up his cheeks and got angry again. I clearly kept my promise to you. Don't I get any reward at all? Liar deliberately teased him and pretended to say no. The little one immediately stuck out his lips even more. But as soon as he heard his mother say, of course there is. I can grant you one wish. He immediately became happy again. Then I want Mom to read me fairy tales every night. Liar froze for a moment, not expecting Cuddy's wish to be only something so simple. That child said his mother reads to him every day. Only then did Liar understand that the little one had always been envying other people's mothers. I hope our Cuddy can have fun next time too. By the time they returned to the Duke's residence, it was already nearing evening. The weather was also gradually getting hotter, so they could go boating together to cool off. The moment Cuddy heard the word together, he immediately became happy. But that together had better not include father. I don't want to go with father. I only want it to be Mom and me. But Liar had not forgotten that only a harmonious family could raise a happy child. Mom will work hard for your sake. After returning to her room that night, Liar finally had time to sort through everything that had happened during the day. She could not understand why Lady Chatty held such great hostility and why she had called the Duke a barbarian. She guessed that perhaps the original owner had been forced into the marriage, and that was why she had disliked her husband and also disliked her child. But no matter how much she thought it over, she still did not have the original owner's complete memories in her mind, only some living habits left over from the past. The more Liar thought, the more she felt something was wrong. In the end, she could only ask the maid, in the Empire, what exactly does it mean to be called a barbarian? Who would have thought that this question would frighten the maid badly? Liar had no choice but to explain that she had heard Lady Chatty's son say it at the Countess's place. He said Cuddy carries barbarian blood, and that anyone who touched him would be cursed. Ever since that accident, there were many things she could no longer remember. Only then did the maid realize that her lady had actually lost her memory during this period. No wonder she had changed so much and had become so gentle toward the young master. Liar also caught the concern in the maid's words. She was probably worried that once her memory returned, she would go back to how she used to be. So she said firmly that she would not change. The current her already knew how important Cuddy was to her. But the maid still felt that this absolutely must not let the Duke know. If the Duke learned that his wife had only begun treating him and the young master kindly again because she had lost her memory, then afterward, he would definitely be so hurt that he would close off his heart once more. However, the Duke would not hate you, madam. Otherwise, he would not have spent so much gold to marry you back then. Hearing that, Liar was utterly shocked. She had not expected that the original owner really had been sold off by her father. Before this, she had thought that the Duke had forcibly taken the original owner away. So it turned out that the person who had truly rescued the original owner from that dark family was instead the Duke. So she agreed with the maid's suggestion. In order not to arouse suspicion, she would not ask about this personally for the time being. Instead, she would let the maid investigate what happened afterward, and then report back to her. After the maid left, Liar also tried to recall the original owner's memories, but in the end she still gained nothing. Cuddy was a child deeply starved of love. He always said he did not care, but in his heart he had always been longing for his mother's love. The Duke was the same. He looked cold and distant, yet he always silently took care of her in places where she could not see. The two of them were clearly both such good people, so what kind of past had the original owner hidden to make her treat them like this? A week later, summer officially arrived. The maid also excitedly brought good news, and it was about Count Chatty's family. Lady Chatty was no longer the Countess now. Liar had not expected things to develop so quickly. The maid leaned in closer and lowered her voice to reveal even more explosive news. Lady Chatty had been having an affair with a guard, and the child at the party was not Count Chatty's biological son at all. So everything Lady Finzel had said at the party was true. No wonder Lady Chatty had fled in such panic at the time. But all of this was also entirely their own doing. Better go see her precious darling son first. After asking the maid, she learned that Cuddy was currently playing in the library. So Lyre took some desserts and went to find him. But as soon as she reached the library, she discovered that it was unusually quiet inside. She called Cuddy's name, but no one answered. Only in the end did she see her sleeping son in the corner. She had originally wanted to wake Cuddy and have him go sleep in bed instead. But the moment she touched his face, she discovered that his little face was burning hot, and his skin was flushed an unhealthy red. Lyre instantly panicked. She did not know whether this was a fever or the effect brought on by flame magic, so she could only hurriedly pick Cuddy up and go look for a doctor. At the last gathering, his little friend had bragged about more than one thing. He had said that his mother read him bedtime stories every day, and when he was sick, his mother would stay by his bedside the whole time and hold his hand. Cuddy had never experienced such feelings even once, so he also wanted to try it, to see whether when he was sick, Mom would stay by his side the whole time. Although that was what he thought in his heart, on the surface, he still stubbornly mocked the other boy for being physically weak. He was not as fragile as an ordinary child, and he firmly believed that his mother's love for him must be greater. But unexpectedly, in the end, he really fell ill because the magic inside his body went out of control. After the doctor examined him, it was found to be only temporary physical pain. However, this state might continue for some time. But even so, Lyre was still worried sick because Cuddy's body was now as scorching as fire. The doctor explained that the flame magic inside Cuddy was growing, and his body had to adapt to this sudden change in this way. So for now, they could only first provide some basic treatment. Even though that was what the doctor said, Lyre still could not set her mind at ease. So she decided that tonight she would stay here with Cuddy and personally take care of him. Because of the fever, Cuddy slept very restlessly and cried that he was hot. His head hurt badly too. Seeing the little one like this, Lyre felt as if her heart were breaking. In his haze, Cuddy opened his eyes and saw his mother keeping watch by his side. No one had expected that the first time Cuddy called out Mom would be at a moment like this. The little one pitifully said that he had actually never gotten along very well with the other children. So he hoped Lyre would not dislike him, and that in the future, he would definitely work even harder. Lyre quickly pulled the child into her arms and coaxed him, saying that Mom would never dislike Cuddy. Mom is very happy that you remembered what we agreed on, but from now on, you don't need to force yourself to cater to other children anymore. What matters most is that Cuddy is happy. A few minutes later, she finally managed to soothe this sobbing little one. She tucked Cuddy back into the blankets and told him that he absolutely had to rest well so that he could recover faster. When you get better, we'll go boating as promised. We'll go together, and it will definitely be fun. Who would have thought that Cuddy would suddenly ask Mom to read him a storybook until he fell asleep? Although Lyre did not quite understand, she still casually picked up a book. And so, amid Lyre's soft reading voice, Cuddy gradually fell asleep. Unexpectedly, at this very moment, the utterly troublesome Duke arrived. The moment he pushed the door open, he called out, "Lyre, why aren't you asleep yet?" Lyre quickly motioned for him to be quieter. She had not expected that the Duke still had not gone to sleep even now. She thought to herself that he must also be worried about Cuddy. Even though he had worked until late at night, he had still specially taken time to come and take a look. It was just that he always seemed to like hiding his emotions, so Lyre told him not to worry and said that she would stay here with Cuddy all night. But those words caused the Duke to reveal a puzzled expression, because the former her would absolutely never have done such a thing. Lyre explained that she simply wanted to make some changes. "But you used to hate me and Cuddy all along. That day, when the child cried, why were you angry? Even if all of that is true, you should not be this calm." He even suddenly asked to hold Lyre's hand. Though confused, Lyre still extended her hand. Yet the Duke once again questioned in a low voice, "In the past, you never let me touch you. But now not only are you willing to call my name, you're even willing to let me hold your hand. Could it be that after that accident, you lost your memory?" The ugly Duke finally realized that his wife had lost her memory. If it were the former Lyre, she had always been cold and distant. She would never be as gentle and passionate as she is now. Lyre had not expected that the secret she originally wanted to bury deep in her heart would eventually be discovered. When reading the comic, she had worried that the Duke would be hurt if he learned the truth. But the Duke felt that if those things from the past had never happened, perhaps Lyre would have always treated her well, like she does now. She was incomparably infatuated with Lyre's smile, like flowers blooming in spring, and also with that gentle voice calling her name. She hoped that before Lyre regained her memory, she could continue treating her like this, even if it was only brief tenderness. Faced with her husband's heartfelt confession, Lyre only felt that she was about to run out of breath. This arm was holding her too tightly, but she still responded to the Duke seriously. "If this is what you want, I will do it. I know you are a gentle and considerate husband. Your coldness is actually because you are afraid that after I regain my memory, I will continue to hate you like before, and that I will also forget everything that is happening now." The Duke was deeply moved. It turned out that his wife understood everything in his heart. Hearing his wife's promise that she would not forget his kindness just because she regained her memory, he finally felt a little more at ease. "I am truly very afraid that all of this will suddenly disappear. If you stop talking to me, I really won't know what to do." Seeing the Duke like this, Liar still could not help but laugh. He was completely different from the cold and sharp-tongued Duke at the beginning. His current motive actually made him especially adorable. The Duke explained that at that time, he did not know Liar had lost her memory and only thought she was toying with him. Only now did he understand that the truth was not like that. And then he suddenly made a heartfelt confession, saying that I will always look forward to your smile. Even when you are cold to me, I still love you. No matter how aggressive and overbearing you used to be, your smile could still melt my heart. Liar blushed from the Duke's sudden closeness and confession. With a handsome and wealthy man standing right in front of her saying sweet words, who could not be moved? Although she was also very happy that her relationship with the Duke had grown closer, this posture was just too embarrassing. Besides, Cuddy was still sleeping beside them. She stammered and told the Duke not to come so close, but ended up being mercilessly teased instead. "How did my wife become a little stutterer? And why is your face so red?" He even deliberately acted naughty and leaned a little closer. Liar hurriedly stopped him. "Weren't you here to see Cuddy?" "I came to see Cuddy, but I was also very worried about you." Pouting, Liar complained that in the past the Duke never said anything nice, and every time she went to her office, she was sent back with the words that official duties were busy. The Duke patiently explained that he actually wanted even more to come see Liar, but he knew that such happiness could vanish in an instant at any time. That was why he cherished it even more. Although he was clearly very afraid, he still could not bear to leave. "From now on, I will not run away anymore. I will keep loving you." The Duke looked aloof and domineering on the surface, but behind the scenes, he was crazily competing with his son for affection. After his confession, he wanted even more to cling to his wife all the time. Who could have thought that the Duke was actually so clingy? In order to stay here with her, he actually dumped all his work onto the miserable wage earner. He did not even care that his son was still sleeping nearby, his heart set only on relentlessly flirting with his wife. Fortunately, Cuddy suddenly woke with a start from his sleep. Liar quickly turned around to check on the little one's condition. Cuddy said sleepily that his head felt very dizzy. Liar hurriedly brought over a wet towel and gently placed it on his forehead. The little guy did not forget to take the opportunity to target his father. "If only Mom were here with me right now, I would definitely get better faster." Hearing this, the Duke immediately felt that something was wrong. The next second, Liar tactfully asked the Duke to leave first. In order to prove that staying here would also be useful, the Duke hurriedly said that he had experienced this kind of thing when he was little too. But before he could finish, his coquettish son interrupted him. "Mom, he's so noisy. My head feels even dizzier." The Duke instantly felt this was utterly absurd. He had not expected his son's acting skills to be Oscar-worthy. Hiding in Liar's arms, he even looked at his father with a mischievous grin. And he could only stand there watching, even facing the risk of being driven away. He still wanted to say something more, but Liar stopped him again. "Cuddy needs rest. Please go out first." After hearing this, the Duke could only leave dejectedly, while victorious Cuddy became even more smug. As soon as the sun rose the next day, Liar was persuaded back to rest by the servants sent by the Duke. After sleeping for a while, she had been busy until now again. She was still asking about Cuddy's current condition. At this moment, there suddenly came a knock at the door, and Liar's first reaction was actually that the Duke had come. But she quickly made herself wake up a little. Before long, the maid came in with Cuddy. Liar had not expected that it would actually be her son who came. She hurried forward to check his physical condition. The little one said pitifully that without Mom by his side, he felt very lonely. Liar felt very gratified inside. Cuddy was finally willing to show her a smile. The little one tugged at his mother's skirt and softly asked whether she was busy. "If I won't disturb you, I want to stay with Mom." Liar was worried that when she was handling things, the little one would feel bored, but Cuddy happily said it was fine. He even ran to move a stool and placed it beside the desk. "I will sit quietly here and wait for Mom to finish, and then read me a fairy tale book." Just like that, time passed bit by bit until it began to rain outside the window. The maid sighed that it had been raining a lot lately, and Liar also remembered that she had originally planned to take Cuddy to tour the lake, but it seemed they could only change the date. While eating cake, Cuddy said indifferently that Dad must be very busy anyway and have no time to go. He always has a lot of official duties, and he also does not like this kind of thing. As soon as he finished speaking, the person himself appeared in front of the two of them. Liar was startled by the sudden appearance of the person. Just as Cuddy said, "I am indeed very busy, but to me, you will always come first. I will definitely make time to go with you." Cuddy immediately shifted his target to the carriage again. "Mom will ride in the same carriage as me and accompany me all the way there, right, Liar?" But before she could answer on this side, the Duke had already added on his side, "We are husband and wife. so of course we should sit together. Then this one big and one small started confronting each other over the carriage issue, and Lyra was caught in the middle being pulled both ways. She had to teach them to get along harmoniously so that Cuddy could have a good family atmosphere. An idea suddenly appeared in her mind. She stood up and told the two of them not to argue anymore. All of you, leave this room. Both of them were startled when they heard those words. If you keep arguing, then both of you get out. After saying this, she turned her criticism toward her husband again. As a father, how can you be so childish toward a child? The Duke still wanted to defend himself, but what greeted him was an even harsher scolding from his wife. After saying that, she looked at Cuddy again. You are also at fault in this matter. As a son, you cannot speak to your father like that. Dad also wants to spend more time with Cuddy, but he also has work he must complete as an adult. We also have to learn to understand Dad. After hearing this, Cuddy was filled with guilt. He immediately admitted his mistake to Mom and said he would not do this again in the future. But Lyra clearly did not intend to let this father and son off so easily. As soon as that sly smile appeared on her face, the two of them immediately, inwardly cried out that things were bad. From now on, the two of you must hold hands until you learn to get along peacefully. As soon as the two heard this, both their expressions changed instantly. Lyra directly ignored their protests. She told the maid to take this father and son pair to the hall. Just like that, the two arrived at the hall expressionlessly. In order to fulfill Lyra's request, the Duke directly picked up his son. This way, holding hands will be simpler. Cuddy also pouted and handed his hand to his father. He even turned back and instructed the maid to be sure to report this scene properly to Mom. The Duke carried Cuddy through the entire ducal estate. This unusual scene also caused everyone to talk about it. Even the Duke himself felt embarrassed. He had never expected there to be so many servants in the estate. Cuddy even complained, saying that all of this was Dad's fault. If you had agreed to let me sit in the same carriage as Mom, we would not have ended up like this. Faced with his son's complaints, the Duke merely awkwardly turned his face away. Only at this moment did he finally realize that Cuddy was just a child of only a few years old. And yet he had treated him that way because of selfish motives. No wonder his wife had gotten angry. But no matter what, Cuddy had not expected that Dad would suddenly apologize. Those big eyes were full of disbelief. Then he shyly turned his face away again. No matter what, Mom still likes me more. Of course, the Duke was unwilling to be outdone either. Even if Lyra likes you more, I am still her husband. But you're saying that she likes you more is only your misunderstanding. The maid following behind saw all of this and only felt that their relationship really did seem closer. After the few of them walked around the estate once, they returned to the room again. As a result, they found that Lyra had already fallen asleep leaning over the table. Seeing that this was the perfect opportunity to show off his husbandly strength, the Duke decisively picked up Lyra, preparing to carry her back to her room, only to discover that she was unexpectedly light. Watching this scene, the maid could no longer help shipping the couple. Madam is always worried that your highness is not eating well. Why not simply eat together and also take care of Madam at the same time? She even began acting with deep feeling. Madam often eats alone, and she does not even have much appetite. She has always wanted to ask you to eat with her, but she did not know how to say it. Oh dear. Accidentally let this secret slip out. It is all my fault. When the Duke heard that his wife wanted to eat with him, he was already overjoyed inside. Yet he still said that he would not tell anyone about this. But is this true? Of course. I would not lie to you, Duke. After getting the answer he wanted, only then did he prepare to carry his wife back to the room, who knew that he would be grabbed again by his son. Mom took care of me all night, and I also want to stay with her. The Duke had clearly expected long ago that his son would not let go of any opportunity. Just like that, the two of them together brought Lyra back to her room. Looking at the sleeping Lyra, Cuddy could not help sighing that Mom really looked beautiful. And now she is also especially kind to me. The Duke also followed his son's words and said that in the past she would get angry at everyone. But now she is completely different, and she even still remembers my favorite cake flavor, especially when she is reading. She is simply like an angel, and the Duke also agreed with his son's words with a proud look on his face. This sudden praise made Lyra, who had long since woken up, blush all over her face from embarrassment. Although it was very awkward, seeing how well they were getting along now instead made her not know whether she should open her eyes now or keep pretending to sleep. In the end, she still decided to keep pretending to sleep, but after a long time, there was no sound at all by her ear anymore. She cautiously opened one eye and secretly looked to see what was going on. But she found that the father and son were looking at her together with perfect tacit understanding, right in front of Lyra. The father and son directly launched into a crazy praise mode. They praised the pretending to sleep Lyra until her face turned red. It turned out that the father and son had long known that she was already awake. Lyra could only awkwardly pretend to know nothing and ask whether their relationship had gotten better. Cuddy answered the question first, because Mom wants us to do that. We will definitely get better and better. In my heart, "You are the best mom in the whole world. If you are still very tired, then keep sleeping a little longer. But can I sleep with you?" As soon as Liar heard this, she immediately pulled the little one into her arms. Cuddy, becoming smug again, started provoking Dad. "I think if things are like this now, you should leave. Did you forget what Mom said again?"
You cannot talk to Dad like that.
Cuddy held onto Mom's hand and shyly said, "I just like Mom too much. That is why I want to become the person you love most. And it does not mean I hate Dad." Liar happily hugged the little one. Watching from the side, the Duke also spoke pitifully. "Then can I sleep with you too?" Cuddy generously patted the space beside him instead. "This time I will agree. It is only because Mom wants us to get better that I am agreeing." Just like that, the Duke also got his wish and slept on this big bed. Before long, little Cuddy fell asleep first. This warm scene made the Duke feel that everything was as unreal as a dream. Everything before his eyes was exactly the scene he had imagined on countless nights. He had never expected that it would really become reality now, and there was also his wife's smiling face. She softly said, asking him to promise to go boating together a few days later. It also made him involuntarily remember how, when they were children, she had invited him to play together a few days later. Afterward, he gently held the two of them tighter. "This time, I will definitely keep my promise." As soon as he went to work the next day, his assistant could tell that he was in a very good mood, but today there was also especially much work, and there was clearly still plenty of time. Why was he in such a hurry to finish it? The assistant unexpectedly learned of his master's plan to go boating. No wonder he had personally gone to many places lately to investigate. The assistant, who still wanted to continue gossiping, was immediately ruthlessly driven back to work by the Duke. Just at that moment, Liar knocked on the office door. Immediately afterward, a little one popped out too. He even ruthlessly said, "Dad is very busy. Otherwise, maybe we should come back later." If the Duke had been 1 second slower in saying come in, Cuddy would have dragged Mom away. After Liar came in, she went straight to the point. "May I ask whether the Duke has time to go boating together? The weather has been better lately." Thinking of the warmth when he woke up in bed this morning, the Duke wished he could throw all his work to the assistant right now. But on the surface, he still remained very calm. "I have already found a pretty good place. Next week I will make time for us to go together." Liar had not expected that the Duke had actually already planned it in advance. The assistant beside them quickly offered support. "In order to let you and your family spend a pleasant holiday, this is why you have been working so hard lately, right? You did not even go to your morning exercise and came straight to work." A few days later, early in the morning, the maid had already prepared the food to bring for the outing. For this outing, Liar had even specially dressed herself up carefully. Cuddy was also wearing matching blue clothes and happily ran over this way. After that last incident, the little one still had not given up on fighting for affection. "Mom, I want to sit in the same carriage as you." Liar immediately saw through the little one's thoughts. Our Cuddy wants to sit beside Dad in the carriage, right? Hearing this, Cuddy pouted and muttered softly that he only wanted to sit beside Mom, but he did not dare complain about Mom's arrangement. Not far away, the Duke had already been waiting in front of the carriage early. Seeing that his wife was dressed completely differently from usual today, those exposed shoulders made him blush on the spot. "The sun is so strong today, you should wear a little more or you'll get sunburned." Then he shifted his gaze elsewhere and softly added, "It would be better if this kind of outfit were worn only when I am around." Liar suddenly became shy. The Duke saying such things with a blushing face was simply too unfair. Cuddy beside them interrupted at the right moment. "Mom, it is too hot. Let's go in quickly." The Duke immediately picked Cuddy up. Then he looked at his wife again. "I cast a cooling spell inside the carriage. It is too hot outside. Let's go in quickly." Liar handed her hand over, not understanding why the Duke was smiling so happily, and understanding even less why she actually thought he looked even more handsome. Just like that, the three of them got into the carriage and set off together. Compared with the atmosphere when they first met, now they were already like a truly harmonious family of three. Very soon, the carriage arrived at the destination. The Duke got out of the carriage first, preparing to help his wife down by the hand. He also softly reminded her to be careful. Who knew that the hand he reached out would first be taken by his son?
Thank you, Dad.
Looking at triumphant Cuddy, Liar could not help secretly laughing. These two really did always like to compete in secret. Without saying a word, the Duke directly picked up his son, completely ignoring Cuddy shouting that he wanted to personally help Mom get down from the carriage. Then, he smoothly helped his wife down from the carriage, and Cuddy pouted angrily. But the Duke showed absolutely no intention of putting his son down. He even took the opportunity to wrap an arm around his wife beside him. "Let's set off." Liar shyly asked, "How long will it take to walk there?" But what she got in return was her husband's deliberately teasing reply. "If you get tired from walking, do you want me to carry you too?" Cuddy immediately reached out and covered Dad's mouth. "Before we get on the boat, you are not allowed to talk anymore." Seeing the cute mix-up of the father and son, Liar also could not help beginning to look forward to the next time they went out. A little while later, the three of them finally arrived at the lakeside. Liar was a little puzzled. The Duke did not look like someone coming here for the first time. "That is because this is a place I have always wanted to come to with you. Today, I will fulfill the promise from last time." Listening to the Duke's words, Lyre felt as though she had once been given such a promise before. That was when they still did not know that they would have a child in the future. Lyre had not expected that her husband still remembered an agreement from so long ago and wanted to fulfill it. "For you, I am willing to do anything." Faced with her husband's sudden confession, Lyre's face instantly turned red. She tried hard to calm herself down, telling herself not to lose control of her heartbeat every time she saw the Duke smile like that. Just then, the pleasure boat happened to approach, and the Duke immediately carried Cuddy onto the boat. Then he turned around to help Lyre, who was still standing on the shore, aboard. After the little one got on the boat, he happily patted the seat beside him and urged Mom to come over quickly. "Isn't the scenery here beautiful?" "That's right, just like Cuddy's eyes." Hearing this, Cuddy excitedly looked at Lyre, not expecting that in Mom's eyes, he was actually this good-looking. After the three of them had boarded safely, the boat slowly headed toward the center of the lake. The boatman reminded everyone that the boat would sway slightly, and Cuddy immediately acted spoiled toward Mom, saying that the boat was swaying so much. "Mom, I'm scared." While hugging her son, Lyre suddenly felt as if something was missing from her hands. Only then did she suddenly remember that she had actually left the prepared lunch in the carriage. In a panic, she immediately wanted the boatman to turn back. The two people who did not know what had happened both became nervous and hurriedly asked her what was wrong. Lyre explained that she had forgotten the meal in the carriage. "That is very important. I cannot let my husband and son go hungry." The Duke smiled helplessly. "You are still just as clumsy as before." All of a sudden, unfamiliar memories rushed in. He seemed to have heard this sentence before. When they were very young, they had already met. The memories surfacing now should have been left behind by the original owner. Over here, the Duke was still negotiating with the boatman. As soon as Lyre looked up, she met the worried gazes of her husband and son. She quickly comforted the two of them, saying it was okay. This was their first outing together, and she could not let the mood be ruined. But she still deliberately turned her head aside mischievously, pretending to be angry. "Do you know how nervous I was for this outing?" The Duke had just wanted to speak when he saw Lyre holding Cuddy and smiling as she told the Duke to take them to eat something delicious. Only then did the Duke realize that his wife had deliberately been teasing him just now, and he could only smile helplessly. "Then next, whatever my wife and son want, I will buy." After that, he turned his head and told the boatman to head to the nearest Shushi town. It was Lyre's first time hearing that there was actually a town here, and judging from the Duke's appearance, he was very familiar with the place. A moment later, the group arrived at the town pier, and after getting off the boat, the Duke expressionlessly held Cuddy's hand. Seeing this scene, Lyre could not help sighing that they had finally avoided the tragic ending in the original story, and the relationship between the father and son was getting better and better. As soon as she looked up, she saw one big hand and one small hand reaching out to her at the same time, and both of them said the same words, "Hold my hand." Lyre had no choice but to stand in the middle and take both of their hands. However, dressed so magnificently, they still seemed somewhat out of place in the town. So she wanted to first find a clothing shop to change into different clothes. Led by the Duke, the three came to a clothing shop. Unexpectedly, not only was the owner especially enthusiastic, he also knew them. "I was just planning to pay a visit to the Duke, but I didn't expect you to come now." "That is wonderful." The Duke's reaction also made Lyre very surprised. Clearly, their relationship was very close, but why was that? Lyre pretended to focus on choosing clothes so she would not feel too sensitive, while quietly pricking up her ears to eavesdrop on the conversation between the two. At first, they were just casually chatting about how they had been doing lately, but those last few sentences left Lyre utterly shocked. The Duke was still explaining why they had come, hoping to find a comfortable robe to cover their clothes. The shop owner immediately went to fetch a suitable robe. "Madam, would these be acceptable?" Lyre was still struggling internally, telling herself that the owner was merely an acquaintance of the Duke, but for some reason, she cared very much. Could it be that she was jealous of the two of them? The owner still had not figured out what was going on, and seeing Lyre's constantly changing expression, he thought she simply did not like his recommendation. After hesitating again and again, Lyre finally asked the question on her mind, "Are you friends with Kian?" Hearing that, the owner looked surprised. "Oh my, madam actually called the Duke by his nickname." Then he grew serious again. "The Duke and I really are very good friends." Lyre instantly became uneasy. What exactly did he mean by that? "Madam, don't you remember me? I was a member of the Duke's Knight Order. Back then, I had long hair." Lyre froze at once. "You used to be a knight?"
Yes.
"Because I found a new dream here. I had no choice but to give up my identity as a knight. I also feel sorry for having once sworn that I would be loyal to the Duke forever. So, whenever someone from the Duke's household comes to town, my shop provides clothes free of charge. Today, instead of coming alone as usual, the Duke brought you and the young master with him." Lyre instantly felt unbearably embarrassed. She had only tried to change the subject by pretending to choose clothes, never expecting things to develop like this. Why had she become anxious because of this? In fact, the Duke's eyes and thoughts had always been on Lyre, though they were occasionally interrupted by sudden memories. And she herself had always wanted to get closer to the Duke, as if part of the original owner still remained within his body. At that moment, Cuddy, now dressed in his outer robe, came running over quickly. "Mom, let's go eat now. I'm hungry." Liar also took off the hat and asked the owner to send it to the carriage. "I'm sorry for asking you some strange questions just now. I think I misunderstood you before." The owner happily replied that it was fine, and seeing that the couple's relationship was not as terrible as the rumors said, he felt relieved. Liar blushed at once and stammered out her thanks again. The Duke quickly caught up and supported his wife. "If you walk like this, you'll fall soon." Seeing this scene, the owner finally put his mind completely at ease. The Duke could finally get along well with the girl he had secretly loved for so long. A moment later, they arrived at a nearby restaurant. Liar felt a little sorry that Cuddy had not been able to complete the boating trip they had promised, because Mommy had been too careless. "We had to get off the boat early." But Cuddy did not think so. "I was very happy today. The river was very clear, and the wind was very fresh. I liked it very much. And I also really like talking with Mom like this. Next time, we can attend the village festival, or continue on to the next village. So let's look forward to our next trip together." Soon, the food they had ordered was brought over. Liar looked at Cuddy and softly reminded him, "Careful. Blow on it first before eating." Cuddy listened to his mother and carefully blew on the food. But instead of eating it himself, he held the food out in front of Liar. "Mom, hurry and eat." That adorable and thoughtful gesture dealt Liar a fatal blow in an instant. Cuddy was just too cute. If only there were a camera right now. Food fed by her son's own hand was simply too delicious. The Duke quietly watched the two of them feeding each other like that from the side. Unexpectedly, in the very next second, he was called out too. He asked Liar with feigned composure, "What is it?" Then, he saw a spoon being held out in front of him. Though he looked helpless on the surface, he was overjoyed inside, and he deliberately acted calm as he ate that bite of food. After dinner, the three of them took the carriage back. Cuddy, who had spent the whole day playing, fell asleep as soon as he got into the carriage. According to Cuddy's maid, she had been so excited about today's trip that she had not slept at all the previous night. Liar looked at the little one's peaceful sleeping face and still found him just as adorable. "Thank you for arranging everything today. I hope we can find another chance to go out together in the future." The Duke looked at his sleepy wife with a flushed face. "Liar, there will be countless moments like this in the future." As soon as they returned home, servants stepped forward, ready to carry Cuddy away. Liar refused them. "I want to put Cuddy to sleep together with the Duke." The assistant quickly spoke up, hoping that after the Duke had put the young master to sleep, he could go to the office, because there was still a huge pile of documents left unfinished. But before he could even finish speaking, a punch from the maid frightened him into silence. Just then, Cuddy woke up, and Liar told him to bathe first, and then sleep together afterward. But unexpectedly, the little one refused outright. "That is my room. I want to sleep alone." In order to give Dad and Mom more time alone together, the boy decided to sleep by himself tonight. Cuddy's decision took Liar completely by surprise. She had thought the little one was angry with her. Unexpectedly, it turned out that he and his father had a little secret between them and had already agreed not to sleep with Mom tonight. Liar curiously pressed for the reason, but Cuddy refused to tell her.
"This is a secret between Dad and me."
"I'm sorry. I can't tell Mom. And you do not need to read me a fairy tale tonight either. Mom must be very tired too." Liar touched the little one's head with relief. "Our Cuddy has really grown up.
You even know how to care about Mom now."
After that, she curiously pressed the Duke again about what exactly the agreement was. But the two of them seemed as though they had already planned it, and kept this matter mysterious from beginning to end. So tonight developed differently from what Liar had originally imagined. She had thought it would still be the three of them together, but instead it unexpectedly became just her and the Duke. No matter how curious she was now, he was not going to say it. She could not help but guess. Could it be that Cuddy wanted Dad and Mom to become a little closer? So she stepped forward and took the Duke's hand on her own initiative. Unexpectedly, he trembled slightly with nervousness. Could it be that the Duke was still afraid she would suddenly recover her memories? "I want to know, what did you think of today's outing?" Before the Duke could answer, the original owner's memories intruded once again. In despair, the original owner murmured in a low voice, "I cannot love him. I do not deserve happiness." But she could not restrain herself from wanting to say that she loved him. Rather than this, "It would be better if he hated me." Only then did Liar realize that something seemed wrong. The original owner had actually been in love with the Duke. But why had she pushed him away so mercilessly? Something else must have happened in between. Seeing that his wife's expression was off, the Duke hurriedly asked with concern, "You must be tired from riding in the carriage today. You should rest earlier, so that you can recover." Liar knew that the Duke was still being extremely cautious, afraid that one day she might suddenly recover her memories. If they wanted to truly repair their relationship, then she had to know the truth. "Why is it that even though I used to treat you so harshly, you still loved me? Why would you love me so blindly?" To be honest, I do not know either. Perhaps it was because of your beautiful smile, or perhaps because of the way you are adorably clumsy at times. But I just love you unconditionally. Are you willing to believe that? Liar fell silent for a moment. Even if I did not return those feelings with the same emotions, would it still be the same? The Duke had not expected his wife to suddenly talk about these things. Lyre explained that she always felt as though this period of time had been like a dream. You have actually been worrying all along that I might recover my memories, haven't you? So instead of that, tell me the truth. Why did our relationship become what it is now? The Duke wanted to speak, but stopped again. Perhaps I am too selfish and do not want to tell you everything that happened. I only want to keep seeing your brilliant smile. Lyre did not want to miss this opportunity, so she still held on to the Duke and wanted him to tell her the truth. Why do you keep avoiding it? I know you would not hurt me. Even if you really did that, I would not allow it, so please stop avoiding it.
Please stop avoiding it.
Then, Lyre kissed the Duke on the lips. Faced with such a proactive wife, the Duke could no longer suppress the feelings in his heart. He pulled Lyre into his arms and deepened the kiss. After the Duke refused to tell her what had happened in the past, the servants in the Duke's mansion also seemed to have received some kind of order, and all kept silent about what had happened before. At a loss, Lyre suddenly thought of the letter Madame Finzel had sent last time. Judging from the previous gathering, she knew those rumors like the back of her hand. Then she must also know some things about the two of them. With that in mind, Lyre immediately ran off to discuss it with Cuddy. Finzel's son wants to invite you to play again. This time it will be only our two families, and we will be the only guests. That way, you can play properly with your friend, and no one will disturb you. Cuddy seriously thought about what his mother said. You mean Finzel's son wants to play with me? Lyre nodded somewhat doubtfully. Yes, that is what the letter Mom received says. After hearing that, the corners of Cuddy's mouth lifted slightly. Then why not invite them to our house? That made Lyre even more puzzled. Yes, why not? I want my friend to see my mansion. Hearing that, Lyre instantly became excited. Cuddy had actually used the word friend, and that meant he was moving away from the tragic fate he had in the original story. Mom will write to Finzel right away. Then I want to play alone with Redis. Soon, it was the day they had agreed to meet. Cuddy was especially looking forward to this meeting. Lyre was also very pleased, thinking that her son truly liked this new friend. You must get along well today too. Okay, I will. A maid came to announce that Madame Finzel had arrived. Soon after, the two of them walked in wearing matching parent-child outfits. Thank you for the invitation, madam. We were both very much looking forward to visiting. Redis also greeted them very politely. Our Cuddy has been looking forward to this day for a long time. The little one asked in confusion, are you talking about Cuddy? Of course, Redis. I have also wanted to see you for a long time. Lyre looked at the two children, completely puzzled. Did the way they were acting really count as being good friends? In the very next second, Cuddy took the initiative and suggested taking Redis around to look at the Duke's residence. Of course, Lyre was very happy at this moment, since Cuddy had finally made a friend. Madame Finzel also reminded her son to get along well, and so, the two little ones went off to play by themselves. The mothers watched the children leave. Then the two of them began a pleasant afternoon tea together. Lyre had also specially taken out the best tea to entertain her guest. Madame Finzel was very interested in it. And it reminded her of one of her friends. But unfortunately, she had been ill last time, so they had been unable to meet. But Lyre was already planning to pack up some tea for her before they left. Just then, Madame Finzel mentioned that this person had long pink hair and also loved her child very much. This instantly reminded Lyre of the female lead in the novel, who also had pink hair. Her mother had long been tormented by illness. The heroine's misfortune began with her mother's death. Has your friend's child turned 7 this year? Does she also have pink hair and clear eyes like her? After hearing Madame Finzel give an affirmative answer, Lyre understood. This was the heroine who was about to appear, the one who would later be imprisoned by Cuddy. At that moment, Madame Finzel asked a soul-searching question. Why does Madame know these things? You clearly have never met before. Lyre froze and for a moment did not know how to explain. Lyre immediately brought up her previous reason of having looked into playmates around Cuddy's age, trying to dispel Madame Finzel's suspicion. Using that as an excuse to dispel Madame Finzel's suspicion, she had not expected that the woman would actually believe it. Then Cuddy and my friend's daughter are only 1 year apart. Lyre naturally knew this very well. In the original story, the heroine's mother would die when she was 7 years old, and the remaining year was the starting point of her tragic fate. After that, the heroine's father fell into long-term alcoholism because of grief. Then someone with ulterior motives took advantage of this and burdened him with enormous debts. From then on, the family began its road to ruin. Because of this, the heroine's father made a terrible decision. After her father left, the heroine had no choice but to enter the Duke's household to work off the debt. That was how she caught Cuddy's eye and ended up imprisoned. To prevent all of this from happening, Lyre decided that she would not let the heroine's family collapse. The only method now was to cure her mother's illness, and in fact, her mother's illness could be cured as long as it was treated in advance. In the novel, She chose to give up precisely because of the expensive treatment costs. However, Liar, who knew the plot well, had another method, but the prerequisite was that she had to meet her in person first. So, she asked whether they could go visit together. She was quickly given permission, and in this way, she could communicate with the heroine's mother. She could also take the opportunity to see what her future daughter-in-law looked like, since in the original story, she was an unrivaled beauty, and she must have been adorable as a child too. Continuing to talk only about the heroine did not seem very appropriate either. It was time to ask about that matter. Madame Finzel also noticed that Liar seemed to have something she wanted to say, so she proactively opened the topic for her. "You look very worried. Do not worry, no matter what you say, I am willing to listen." Using the fact that she did not often move in social circles, Liar wanted to ask around about the rumors others spread about her. "I used to always refuse to attend gatherings. I do not know whether that caused many misunderstandings." Madame Finzel immediately denied that idea. "They're just jealous of you. There is no such thing." That sentence instead left Liar rather confused. Then Madame Finzel began telling her about the moving and romantic love story of Liar and the Duke that circulated in society. "You have no idea just how famous your love story is. The Duke fell in love with you at first sight when you were still a child. He even proposed to you and paid off your debts for you, after you said that you only wanted a peaceful life. Even the wedding was held very quietly. According to the rumors, you only ever showed your face in front of the Duke, and everyone was unbelievably curious about that." Madame Finzel gestured animatedly as she talked about it. "You have no idea how excited I was when I heard you were coming to the birthday party." After hearing all this, Liar felt nothing but extreme embarrassment. It was practically like the plot of a romance novel. But no matter how she thought about it, it did not match the Duke's and Cuddy's initial reactions at all. They were completely different from what the rumors made them out to be. Madame Finzel admitted that this love story was also the only rumor, and told Liar not to worry too much about it. It seemed that she could not get any more information from Madame Finzel either, so she could only continue relying on the original owner's memories that suddenly surfaced. After that, their topic turned to their sons. Liar also generously shared the diary she had written for Cuddy. While the two were talking about their children, there was suddenly a knock at the door. Several servants who had been following Cuddy walked in. "We have come to ask for Madame's help," they said hesitantly. "The young master and the Marquis's son are now." Hearing this, the two women instantly became tense and quickly urged the servants not to hide anything. Only then did the servants tell the truth. "The young masters are destroying everything along the way, and we simply cannot stop them." Liar's heart immediately sank, and she followed them to the scene at once. There were traces of flames everywhere, and the ground was full of the two children's chaotic footprints. Liar immediately called out to Cuddy. The little one was filthy all over and turned around in panic. He looked at his mother pitifully. Liar hurriedly forced herself to calm down. That expression on her son's face clearly showed he was asking for forgiveness. "But if you do something wrong, you must accept punishment. Even if you look at me like that, I will not let you off easily. This is the family's training ground. If you act like this, you could hurt the people who protect us." "Mom, I was wrong. I only wanted to show Redis our training ground." Just now, Cuddy had brought Redis here and was seriously introducing how the knights trained here every day. But Redis had looked unimpressed. "Our family has even stronger knights." That sentence instantly made Cuddy unhappy. "I heard that you can also use fire magic." "Really?"
Yes.
"What? Then can you drive away this pouring rain?" Cuddy was instantly enraged by Redis' tone. Ignoring the servant's attempts to stop him, he immediately wanted to use magic. "If Madame finds out, she definitely will not be happy. So this must be kept secret from Mom, and you are not allowed to tell her either." Redis kept provoking him from the side. "Your flames look like they would go out as soon as it rains." Cuddy instantly increased the firepower again. Then watch carefully. Under Cuddy's control, the training ground was instantly swallowed by flames. Even the surrounding trees were set on fire. The servants were all terrified. Cuddy looked at Redis with a smug expression. Well, the one beside him even clapped. "I bet you do not have any ability at all. Come compete with me." Redis merely smiled faintly. "Why would you think that? Look carefully. Look carefully." Then he cast his magic and directly sliced a distant tree in half. "Is my ability not stronger than your magic?" Cuddy also refused to back down. "If I wanted, I could burn down all the trees here. I can do that too." So the two little ones directly challenged each other in the name of their families. As soon as the servants heard that, they rushed forward to stop them.
"Calm down, you must not fight."
But by then, Cuddy was no longer listening to advice at all. "We are just playing. Do not come over here." The servants were terrified something would happen, so they could only hurry to report it. After Cuddy finished explaining, he added in a low voice, "I just did not want to lose to the Marquis's son and bring shame to the family."
Liar also understood now.
Her son had acted this way partly because of a child's pride. So she told Cuddy to go change clothes first, so he would not catch a chill. Meanwhile, Madame Finzel was also scolding her own son. Liar suggested that Redis should also go change his clothes first. But Madame Finzel had not brought a change of clothes for her child on this outing. "It is fine. I can lend Cuddy's clothes to your child first. I would feel terrible if he caught a cold because of this. Madame Finzel felt very apologetic, but indeed, she could not let the child catch a chill because of it. So she gladly accepted Liar's suggestion. Just like that, the two little ones were both handed over to the maids. A moment later, the two of them had changed clothes and came downstairs hand in hand. Liar was delighted. It seemed they had made up. Yes, Duchess, I am truly very sorry about today. And Cuddy, I sincerely apologize to you. Liar saw how sensible and polite Redis was. Then she turned to look at her son. Cuddy, I think you will apologize too, right? The little one lowered his head and obediently apologized to Madame Finzel, but in the very next second, the tone changed completely. Redis, you are really awful. Cuddy was clearly very dissatisfied with Redis. Even what he said startled Liar. It is all right, Duchess. I know he will not apologize to me. Liar was still wondering what exactly Redis meant by that. In the next second, her pupils shook again. What was going on with this comic? How had these two children started chatting again? Then when will you come play with me again? Once the rainy season is over, I will come again. And they even agreed that next time they would definitely have a proper match. Compared with Liar's confusion, Madame Finzel instead felt that after boys had fought a few times, their relationship would only get better. Cuddy then came to find his mother holding a book. I want you to read me this one today. Liar looked at the cover. It was a book called The Winter Witch. I know fairy tale books are a bit childish for me, but I still want Mom to read it. If it is too thick, your throat will definitely hurt. Liar was deeply moved. The little one was actually so thoughtful. So she opened the book and began telling the story. When winter is covered in ice and snow, people will see a witch in a certain place. She possesses powerful magic and can grant any wish. The witch can wander freely to any corner of the kingdom, merely to pass the dull and repetitive days. So, the witch began using human souls to grant wishes. And so many people, for the sake of the ones they loved, were willing to bet everything. Willing to bet everything. This part of the plot instantly caught Liar's attention. And strangely enough, it sounded especially familiar. Before she could think further, Cuddy interrupted her. Mom, what happened after that? What happened to them? Unexpectedly, Cuddy was listening to even such obscure and difficult sentences with great interest. From that point on, no matter how high the stakes were, the witch never lost, because all of this had originally been a path she laid out in order to collect human souls. The intense emotions contained in souls would make the witch's magic even stronger. Mom, does that mean the stronger the emotions are, the stronger the magic is? Then I must be stronger than Redis, because I love Mom very much. Liar had never expected that the little one would be so good at flirting. She quickly pulled her precious son into her arms. Mommy loves Cuddy very, very much too. I know Mommy loves me, but what about Daddy? Does Mommy love Daddy too? That question made Liar instantly shy. In her mind flashed the Duke's handsome face again and again. Her heartbeat also sped up uncontrollably. If this wasn't love, then how else could it be explained? Yes, although I don't dare admit it. Mommy loves Daddy too. Liar knew that the person the Duke liked was the original owner, not herself. But even so, she had still fallen for the Duke. But the little one did not quite understand what Mommy meant by that, or why she did not dare to love Daddy. Liar had no choice but to explain that it was because she had been too harsh to him before. In her previous life, she had never imagined that she would have the kind of life she had now. If you go ask Daddy whether he loves Mommy too, I think he will definitely answer yes. Who would have thought that in the next second, the Duke's voice suddenly rang out. So are you reading fairy tales to our son? Liar was startled by the Duke's sudden appearance. Next time, could you at least make some noise before coming closer? Then, thinking of what she had just said, she instantly blushed and began wondering whether the Duke had heard it. But judging from the Duke's expression alone, she could not tell at all. I came to talk to Cuddy about what happened yesterday. Only then did Liar let out a sigh of relief. It seemed he had not heard, but Cuddy had already admitted his mistake. So don't scold him anymore. I've already thought it over, but the necessary discipline still cannot be omitted. Liar held her son and looked at the Duke with wide eyes, trying to get him to let Cuddy off. If Daddy scolds you too harshly, you must tell Mommy. But the little one did not take it to heart at all. He skipped forward and grabbed Daddy's hand. The Duke clearly had not expected his son to take the initiative to hold his hand. So he directly picked Cuddy up in his arms. But before we leave, the Duke suddenly turned back to look at Liar. Before going to sleep tonight, I will give you the answer you want. See you tonight. Liar was completely stunned this time. Judging from the Duke's expression, not only had he heard everything, he even seemed to be planning to prove something, as if he were going to take some kind of action. That night, Liar dreamed of her. The witch said to her, "Time passes so quickly. The day we agreed on is almost here. Do you still remember?" Liar woke up with a start. She began to wonder whether her conversation with the witch just now had really been a dream. The Duke noticed that his wife had suddenly awakened and immediately understood that she must have had another nightmare. But Liar was very puzzled as to why the Duke said another. Could it be that she used to have this kind of dream often? The Duke seemed as if he wanted to say something, but then hesitated. He soaked a towel and gently laid it over Liar's forehead. What you need most right now is rest. But I want to know, will you tell me? Are my nightmares related to my memory loss? The Duke could only begin by talking about some things from childhood. The first time they met was when they were children. Liar held the Duchess's hand and obediently greeted him. Unexpectedly, in the very next second, she fainted directly from being too nervous. The Duke could not help laughing. In return, he got a fierce glare from Liar. He had thought it was only a brief encounter, but from then on, a little girl would always appear by his side. Although his private space had been disturbed, he still could not help developing a fondness for this pretty and lovely girl. Every time they met, he would be drawn to her all over again. For now, this is all I can tell you. Liar puffed up her cheeks unhappily. It's always like this. Can't you tell me just a little more? A few years ago, I once made you a promise that we would be like we were when we were children. I never thought that in the end, the one who broke that promise would be me. I could only fulfill that promise while you had lost your memory. So, I do not want you to recover your memories. Liar wanted to keep asking, but she was interrupted again. You should get some proper rest now. Don't be afraid. I'll stay by your side, and you won't have any more nightmares. However, after that night, a distance quietly opened up between the two of them. Even the maid noticed it and tearfully asked Liar whether she had argued with the Duke and why they had suddenly started sleeping in separate rooms. Who knew that her mistress would instead become even angrier? Why are you asking me? Why don't you go ask the Duke? Liar was truly distressed. If she could not know what exactly the original owner had gone through in the past, then nothing would make progress. Ever since that day, the Duke had moved into another room, using the excuse that he would be busy with work until very late. Even his assistant could not catch sight of him. This behavior clearly meant that he was deliberately avoiding her. Cuddy suddenly rushed in and called out, "Mom." With wide eyes, he cautiously asked whether she had argued with Dad. Could it be because I did something bad? Liar had not expected that the child would blame himself. She hurriedly comforted the little one. It's just that Daddy and Mommy have run into a small problem. Mommy just wants to ask Daddy about some things that he does not want to talk about for now. Something he does not want to talk about? The little one clearly did not understand. Are you two sulking over something that small? We are not arguing. We are just sorting out our thoughts. But the two of you are not even sleeping in the same room now. Liar held her son with a helpless laugh. Clearly, he had been the one most opposed to her getting close to Daddy before, who knew that the little one would suddenly spread his hands and shake his head like a little adult. Mommy, you don't hate Daddy, right? You still want to get along well with him, right? Liar was completely baffled by her son's sudden question. That is indeed the case. Cuddy jumped down onto the floor and snapped his fingers. Mommy and I are done talking. I'll leave the rest to you now. Just as Liar was still confused, two people suddenly walked in from outside the door. This is the young master's order. Please forgive us, madam. And just like that, one on each side, they directly lifted Liar up while the little one stood by and watched everything. Mommy, you taught me to be kind to friends, so why are you being sulky with Daddy? Liar had already vaguely guessed what her son was trying to do. Cuddy walked lightly to open the door. Then I'll leave Mommy to you. After receiving the order, the two immediately carried her outside. No matter how Liar called out to her son, it was useless. At this moment, the two sat facing each other, and the atmosphere was awkward to the extreme. Although Liar also wanted to clear things up with the Duke, it definitely was not under such awkward circumstances. The Duke was equally caught off guard. His son had clearly said that he wanted to ask some questions about superpowers, and had even specifically told him that he must wait in the office. But he had not expected that the person who would be brought in would be his wife. Obviously, he had already understood Cuddy's little plan. That's right. Our son suddenly had people carry me over here. Only then did the Duke admit somewhat embarrassedly that he really had been avoiding Liar before. I knew you were doing it on purpose, but why did you do that? The Duke spoke in a low voice, somewhat awkwardly, because I don't want you to recover your memories. That day, I brought up our childhood because I saw Liar having a nightmare and softened for a moment, so I accidentally let it slip. But after I said it, I regretted it immediately. I knew you would recover your memories sooner or later, so I thought I would avoid you first and delay it for as long as I could, even if only one more day. After hearing this, Liar was already deeply moved, but she still complained that the Duke should have told her the truth. But the Duke was still afraid that the happiness of these days was only an illusion, and also afraid that the future he imagined would really arrive. Liar suddenly tightened her hold on the Duke's hand and told him not to be afraid. None of this is an illusion. Even if I really do recover my memories in the future, it will not change how I feel now. I will do my utmost to make you understand that. After saying that, she kissed the Duke on the lips without hesitation. I love you. That will never change. This made the Duke feel even more guilty. Liar also confessed that she did not blame him and would not ask about the past again in the future. She only hoped that the Duke would come back to sleep in their room. The strange atmosphere between them had long made everyone worried, and now, The husband and wife had finally cleared up the misunderstanding. A month later, it was time to visit her future daughter-in-law. After confirming with the maid what things to bring, Lyre instructed her to take good care of Cuddy. She might not be back until the next day. Lady Finzel was already waiting at the door early. She was looking forward to the three of them chatting together about the children. More importantly, she was worried that it would be awkward for Lyre to meet Lady Finel in private, so she had specially arranged for them to go together this time. She also thoughtfully told Lyre to call her directly by her name, Vinisai, which made Lyre extremely happy. This meant that her relationship with the male lead's mother had become one step closer, and after this, Cuddy would surely have a bright future. The two of them soon arrived at Lady Finel's home. She had also been waiting early in the reception room to welcome them. It is an honor that the Duchess is also willing to come visit me. She also brought out the tea that Lyre had sent. Vinisai told me before that this kind of tea can help relieve pain. I used to only be able to drink bitter medicine, but now being able to use tea instead is truly wonderful. However, Duchess, is there something you came to see me about this time? Lyre, who had suddenly been called on, instantly panicked, her mind racing with how to express her true purpose. In the end, she decided to use the same explanation she had previously given Lady Finzel. I heard that your daughter is about the same age as my son, and that you also love your child very much. I think we will surely be able to become close friends as well. Lady Finel accepted this explanation quite naturally. Just then, a little girl ran in. Lyre recognized her at a glance. This was precisely the heroine from the novel. Unexpectedly, she was even cuter than the book had described. The little one curiously looked at the guests who had suddenly arrived at her home. The next second, Lyre met her eyes. Immediately afterward, the other party let out an exclamation. What a beautiful queen. Then, as if realizing she had been impolite, she softly added another sentence. Lyre was instantly melted by this little cutie and simply could not understand how her own son would imprison such a lovely girl in the future. She immediately introduced her name to her future daughter-in-law. The little one also obediently greeted her. Lady Finel had intended to let her daughter go rest first, but Nia said that she still had not heard Mommy's bedtime story. No one expected that in the next second, Lady Finel would suddenly begin coughing violently. Then her whole body fell backward. This sudden turn of events panicked them both. Lady Finzel immediately told someone to fetch a doctor. It seemed that Lady Finel's condition had already become even more serious than they had imagined. Fortunately, the doctor arrived very quickly. Nia was also extremely worried about her mother's condition. It was the first time she had ever seen her cough up blood like this. Lyre patiently comforted her. Don't worry. As long as Mommy gets proper rest, she will slowly get better. But in her heart, she was more anxious than anyone else and only wanted to find a treatment as soon as possible. Only under the current circumstances, it was difficult to talk alone, so she could only first learn some things from Nia, and the little one also wanted very much to stay with Lyre a little longer. It just so happened that Lady Finzel also wanted to go check on her friend's condition. Nia said that she could stay here with Madam. She also had all the maids go take care of Mommy first. Just like that, only the two of them were left in the reception room. Lyre sat to one side and gently wiped away the little one's tears. Then, in a tone full of confidence, she asked her, "Do you believe there are fairies in this world?" Nia's eyes immediately lit up. The kind of fairies from legends that bring people good luck? So Lyre told Nia a very popular fairy tale. In a cold winter, a child got lost in the forest. He was starving and had not eaten anything all day. Luckily, he found a piece of bread under a tree. But just then, an old woman appeared and asked whether the child would be willing to share some bread with her. The child looked down at it, but still broke off half the bread for her. The old woman also gave her blessing. "You are a kind child. A fairy will give you a special gift." After saying that, she disappeared. In her place appeared a young fairy. The child received the fairy's blessing and soon reunited with his family. As long as the child first heard the story, the explanation that followed would be much easier. As expected, children always especially believe in fairy tales. In that case, are you willing to believe that I am the fairy who brings good luck? Nia clearly had not expected herself to be so lucky. You have hair the color of a fairy, and you are as beautiful as they are, so I believe you. Unexpectedly, little girls nowadays are also so good at charming others with their words. Next, Lyre made an agreement with Nia that everything said today was a secret. Now, I will give you a blessing of good fortune. As long as you do as I say, your mother will get better. Nia's eyes instantly filled with admiration. She looked at Lyre with eager anticipation as Lyre placed the item into her hands. The little one looked at the thing in her hands, her face full of confusion. What is this? Nia looked doubtfully at the flowers in her hand. They looked as if they had already withered. Lyre explained, they are not withered. They just did not grow very well. This is one of the gifts I brought today. When your mother takes a bath, you must put it together with the water. The little one asked with wide eyes, will that bring good luck? That's right, but You must do exactly as I say. Remember, there must be moonlight.
Can you help me do that?
Nia hurriedly nodded, saying that she would definitely do it. Thank you so much.
Fairy.
Lyra looked at the little ball of softness in her arms and only felt that she was unbearably adorable, and she increasingly hoped that Nia could become her future daughter-in-law. Now, Cuddy had already been taught very well. As long as she found a chance to let the two meet in advance, their relationship could have a good start. Nia, come visit my home when you get the chance. By nighttime, Lady Finel sat dejectedly at the bedside. She really enjoyed the time spent having afternoon tea with the other ladies, but unfortunately, her health had been getting worse and worse lately. She did not know how much longer she could live, and only hoped that she could still watch Nia grow up with her own eyes. Just as she was thinking this, she heard someone knock on the door. Right after that, she saw her daughter run in. She even asked her why she was still not asleep this late. I'm here to fulfill my promise with the fairy. Lady Finel was instantly full of question marks. Before she could react, her daughter pulled her outside again. Where are we going? Mommy will know in a moment. Nia had already prepared the bathwater long ago. She even brought her mother into the bathroom. Let's use this for our bath today, okay? I brought you here to bathe, because the bathroom in Mommy's room cannot see the moon. The fairy said moonlight must shine on the surface of the water. Lady Finel had long since been bewildered by her daughter going on and on about a fairy, but seeing how seriously her daughter had prepared everything, for some reason, she actually wanted to go along with this little prank as well. So she stepped into the tub and pulled Nia into her arms. Amazingly, those flowers that had originally looked withered actually bloomed one by one. Lady Finel noticed this too. When Nia had just come in, the flowers had clearly shown no reaction at all. Nia picked up one blooming flower and shouted excitedly. Everything the fairy said was true. Lady Finel could not help becoming curious about who exactly the fairy in her daughter's mouth was. Just like the fairy tales Mommy tells me, the fairy said that as long as I do what she says, you will get better, and she will bring us good luck. Although she did not know who had said these things to Nia, her body had actually become much more relaxed. It was a feeling she had never experienced before. Recently, she had not received any new treatment, nor had she taken any medicine different from before, so why had she suddenly improved? Looking at her excited daughter, she herself began to waver a little. Nia, are you sure that really was something given by a fairy? Yes, she said that as long as we keep going every day and persist, good luck will always stay with us. Lady Finel realized that what so-called constant good luck might mean was that her illness would slowly get better. At this moment, Nia shouted excitedly, "These flowers are dancing just like fairies." Lady Finel followed her words and said, "They really are like fairies." Then she suddenly realized, silver hair like a fairy's. Wasn't that the Duchess? Could it be that she knew how to treat this illness? It was not uncommon for the Duchess to help lower-ranking nobles, though she did not know the reason. But as long as it could make the child happy. She suddenly remembered that Chevalier had once said that it was rare to see a noble who sincerely cared about children like this. Perhaps because of that, she could understand just how much she cherished and cared about her daughter. Although Nia looked a little mischievous, her heart was incomparably pure and incomparably kind. How she wished she could still have enough time to stay by her daughter's side until she grew into adulthood. In the past, she had always endured silently and waited for the ending that belonged to her. But in truth, she did not want to die at all. She loved her daughter so much. So how could she bear to leave her behind alone? When Nia saw that Mommy was crying, she hurried to comfort Lady Finel. Holding her lovely daughter, she said softly, "I will stay by your side forever." However, that very night, after Lyra returned home, she found that both Cuddy and the Duke were still in the office, so she quietly stood outside the door and eavesdropped on what they were saying. With a serious face, Cuddy said that a dress the same color as Mommy's eyes would be best, but the Duke did not think so. Lyre looks like a legendary mermaid, so I think blue suits her best. Lyre instantly blushed. What on earth were these two talking about? She had only wanted to secretly listen for a moment, but the more she listened, the more awkward it became, so she should just pretend she had heard nothing and hurry back to her room. But just as Lyre was about to quietly slip away, she was suddenly grabbed by a pair of little hands. "Mommy, when did you come back?" Caught red-handed while eavesdropping, Lyre could only awkwardly ask the father and son, "What exactly are you two talking about?" Unexpectedly, their replies were astonishingly in sync.
"We're talking about you."
This made Lyre even more embarrassed. How could they just say that directly in front of her? Out of embarrassment, Lyre quickly changed the subject. "Kian, have you finished your work? And has Cuddy finished his homework too?" Who knew that the two of them would again answer in unison, "Finished." At that moment, a servant also happened to come in and remind them that Cuddy should go to class. "But I still want to stay with Mommy a little longer." Only after Lyre persuaded him did the little one reluctantly go to class. Now, only this young couple remained in the meeting room. After Cuddy left, the Duke remained immersed in his thoughts. This made Lyre suspect that something had happened, and she quickly walked over and asked him whether he had some trouble on his mind. The Duke immediately shook his head and said no, but Lyre could tell at a glance that he was lying. "Then if I tell you, will you comfort me?" "Of course. What kind of special comfort do you want?" In fact, Liar knew very well in her heart that what was troubling the Duke most right now was perhaps his fear that she would recover her memories. Can you tell me now? Who exactly has disturbed your mood? If you knew, would you scold that person? Of course, no one is allowed to ruin my husband's mood. I'm serious. The Duke held his wife's hand and, blushing, praised her earnestly. Liar is just too adorable. If you keep seducing me like this, things may become very dangerous. If I become too dependent on you, then you won't be able to escape. So I want to shorten the distance between us as much as possible. After saying that, he prepared to flee. I just came back from Lady Finel's place, and I'm a bit tired. I hope you won't push yourself too hard. I'm going to rest first. After saying that, he left only the Duke standing there alone. The Duke could not help recalling his conversation with Cuddy yesterday. The little one had heard that if Daddy and Mommy slept together, there would be a little brother. But after waiting for so long and still not seeing one, he came to demand when Daddy would fulfill his promise. I will keep trying to maintain things as they are now, but please keep our promise too. I want to see Mommy stay happy all the time. Until then, I will also work hard to protect the way our family is now. Those words from his son made the Duke fully realize that what mattered most had always been their family. So he solemnly made a promise to his son that he would definitely keep it. When is our next family trip? I've even already picked out the color of Mommy's dress. While the two were talking excitedly, Cuddy looked up and saw Mommy hiding outside the door. The Duke had not expected his wife to suddenly appear at that moment. Fortunately, she had only heard the latter half and had not heard the promise he made to Cuddy. As he was thinking about this, the butler walked over with a smile. Oh my, what has our Duke been thinking about to actually be smiling? I've been doing my work so perfectly lately and still haven't seen you smile once. But every time your wife and son come, you're especially cruel to me. Enough of this useless talk. We need to deal with today's matter as quickly as possible. We can't let Liar grow suspicious. But the letter sent by Count Owen, do you really intend to handle it behind Madame's back? The Duke's expression suddenly turned extremely serious. I already said to burn it immediately before Liar finds out. But before Madame married into the family, wasn't she also a member of the Count's household? But the Duke did not care at all. So what? In the butler's view, Liar had always been very cold toward the people of the ducal house in the past, yet she alone would warmly receive the Count when he came. Your Grace, you clearly want to build a good image in Madame's eyes, so why are you still dealing with the Count's letters in secret? But the Duke's thoughts were completely different from the butler's, because he understood his wife. Their relationship is not as good as it looks. The Count only treats Liar as a tool for the family, and every time he visits, he is trying every possible way to borrow money. The last person Liar saw, before losing her memory, was him. At that time, there was nothing I could do. But things are different now. No matter the cost, I will protect Liar. Now go bring me the documents I prepared. I have other plans for that man. Early the next morning, just after she woke up, she was told that her husband was going to see the Emperor. She had not expected the Duke to leave before she woke up, and she was feeling down, thinking she had not even had time to say goodbye. Then she suddenly discovered someone beside her. I haven't left yet. If I don't see you, I won't go. Liar was startled by the suddenly appearing Duke and by what he said. She could not help complaining that her husband always appeared and disappeared like a ghost, and that he should have woken her earlier. She had almost missed seeing him off. You were sleeping so soundly. How could I bear to wake you? Then, if I never woke up, were you planning to ignore the Emperor's summons? I really was thinking that, but wait for me a few days. I'll be back very soon. I'll be back very soon. Liar also understood that her husband still had work to do after all. The first time she welcomed back the Duke from his expedition, she had thought she was dreaming. This time, I will keep waiting for you to come back too, so you must take good care of yourself. After the Duke left, Liar lay alone on the large bed. Seeing this, the maid softly asked whether Madame felt lonely.
Yes.
Even though he only just left, I already feel lonely. At that moment, she suddenly remembered Lady Finel. As it happened, the maid had come for this matter as well. A letter had arrived from Lady Finel. After reading it, Liar finally let out a sigh of relief. Lady Finel's health had improved greatly, and at the end of the letter, she had even specially emphasized her thanks to the fairy. Liar instantly blushed, not expecting that Nia had even told her mother about that. If that's the case, won't it be awkward the next time we meet? But the future had also changed because of this, and in that case, Nia's life story would no longer be so tragic. As for the treatment method, she still had to find a suitable excuse. She could not exactly say she had read it in a novel. Thinking and thinking, she gradually fell asleep without realizing it. When she woke again, she was already in darkness, and all around her, low sobbing kept echoing. Liar looked ahead in confusion and saw a girl crying. The moment that girl turned around, she froze completely. It was actually Liar as a child. What happened that made you cry so sadly? For some reason, seeing little Liar crying so miserably, a strong sorrow also rose inexplicably in her heart. I think it's better if you don't know, but do you really want me to tell you? If you do this, you will remember everything forever, and you will never again be able to live happily the way you do now. Liar did not want to go on living in confusion like this. Only by knowing the truth could she truly grow closer to the Duke. Please help me recover my memories. After hearing this, Little Liar became even sadder and asked why Liar insisted on knowing. Why can't you accept this chance to be happy? You will hurt the people important to you again. I won't. No matter what I experienced in the past, I now know how important the people around me really are. Little Liar finally gave up trying to persuade her further, and also understood that continuing to hide it was not a solution. I know that you already like them very much now, so I will tell you how to enter the memories. There was once a vile man in my life. Someone I still do not want to face even now. That is our father, Marquis Owen. Liar was somewhat dazed, remembering the words the original Liar had said at the end of the dream. Father is the key to unlocking the memories. As she was still thinking, Cuddy interrupted her. Mommy, are you busy right now? I learned a new sword technique and want to show it to everyone. I want to show it to everyone. After getting permission, he happily ran outside to wait for Mommy to change clothes. But afterward, the maid kept trying to stop Liar from going out. Did something happen today? Or are you hiding something from me? But in the end, she still could not get anything out of the maid. The moment she stepped outside, she heard a commotion outside. Cuddy also tugged at his mother, wanting her to hurry and take another route. Liar was worried that something had really happened. The Duke was not home, so she had to find out what was going on. So she planned to go take a look first and then watch her son's performance, but Cuddy again made excuses, wanting Liar to go back to her room first. The servants at the door all became tense the moment they saw Liar appear. They all stepped forward, stopping her from going any farther. Liar also sensed that something was wrong. Their united effort to stop her must have been arranged in advance by the Duke. There was probably someone outside whom she was not supposed to see. The next second, a man appeared ahead of her. Long time no see. Because the Duke had given prior orders, the guards had been stopping the Count from entering the estate the whole time. The moment the Count saw Liar, he immediately demanded to know why they would not let him in. Liar knew he had deliberately chosen a time when the Duke was absent to visit, but this was also the best chance to understand the original Liar's past. The Count would definitely speak of the original Liar's past without any restraint, so she told the guards to let him in. The Duke is not here, and as the mistress of the house, I have the right to decide. I don't want to say it a second time. Let him in. Only then did the guards allow him to enter. The Count shamelessly questioned Liar why she was treating her father this way. I really can't believe it. You actually let them treat me like this. We're family. Liar did not want to waste words on him and directly told the maid to take him to the drawing room. Because the moment she saw the Count, she felt an intense wave of nausea, and it also made one wonder what kind of man this father really was to provoke such an instinctive reaction in her. Little Cuddy also noticed his mother's expression and anxiously asked her not to make that face, because he was afraid. That expression used to always be on your face too. I'm sorry, Cuddy. Mommy just feels a little unwell. Mommy promises she won't make that scary expression again. Whenever I see Cuddy, I can't help wanting to smile. Having such a cute and gentle child really is a blessing. Don't worry, Mommy won't turn back into how she used to be. Liar knew the unease in Cuddy's heart. He was afraid his mother would become the way she had been before. Now Mommy is going to meet a guest. Go back to your room and wait for me first, okay? But the little one firmly insisted on going with his mother. I promised Daddy I would protect Mommy's smile. When Father isn't here, I will protect you. If that person dares hurt Mommy, I will burn him to ashes. Liar was deeply moved by the way her son protected her. Mommy thinks she can handle him, but you must also promise me that you will control yourself no matter what. Little Cuddy obediently nodded in agreement. After entering the drawing room, Liar lifted her son onto the sofa. Unexpectedly, her father's mockery immediately followed. You two do look quite close now. In the past, you always looked at him coldly. Maybe because he has the same blood as me, you finally decided to raise that lowly child of yours? The Count actually said such things in front of the child. Liar immediately stopped him in anger, while Cuddy at her side had already begun quietly controlling flames. It seems you really didn't teach him well. What, does he want to burn me to death? His grandfather. Cuddy refused to back down and directly confronted the Count. If you dare hurt Mommy, I'll do the same to you. I will never forgive you, grandfather. Liar also quickly told Cuddy to withdraw the flames. The Count continued provoking them from the side. Don't you want to know why I say you and your mother are both lowly? Why not let him leave first? There are still things to discuss between us. Cuddy immediately said that he would not leave. I can't let Mommy stay alone with someone like you. Liar knew the Count was a despicable man. If Cuddy stayed here any longer, no one knew what he might say next. The last thing she wanted was for Cuddy to be hurt. Cuddy, are you willing to trust Mommy? More than being a mother protected by her son, I want to be a mother who can overcome difficulties on her own. Can you leave the room for a little while first and let Mommy talk to grandfather alone? Cuddy was 100 times unwilling, but when he heard Mommy say that, he could only reluctantly walk out while repeatedly telling her to call him if anything happened. As soon as Cuddy left, the Count's laughter came from behind. I see you've trained them well. Now, whether it's the Duke or his son, both have already been wrapped around her finger. Now that the troublesome one is gone, let's get straight to the point. I need a sum of money for business. These words gave Liar a splitting headache, as if the same thing had already happened countless times. Immediately after, the original Liar's memories rushed in again. This time, The Duke returned from his expedition with considerable wealth. As long as I hand you over to him, I can get money to pay off my debts. Even though the original liar resisted desperately, the Count remained unmoved and even resorted to violence. As far as I know, your business investments have never once made a profit. You should know that better than anyone. That alone is enough to prove what exactly you have done to me. The Count had not expected Liar to refuse his demand, and he instantly became even more furious. You're nothing but the child of a lowly commoner woman. Shouldn't you be grateful to me for letting you live as a noble? Liar had never imagined the original Liar's background would be like this no matter what. Immediately after, another memory came rushing in. Her mother had the same hair color as she did. Their originally peaceful and happy life was completely shattered on that day. The soldiers sent by the Count forcibly took the original Liar away, no matter how her mother cried and shouted. It could not change the fate of her being taken away. Only at this moment was Liar's background finally completely revealed. She was not the Count's real daughter at all, but a child forcibly taken because of the color of her eyes. Little Liar was brought into the Count's household just like that, and even her original name was taken from her. Simply because she was pretty, she was forced to become an illegitimate daughter who could not be brought into the light. From then on, she became the Liar everyone knew, and her mother also found a way to come to the Count's household and apply to become a nanny. Occasionally, when there was free time, they could still secretly play together. But even so, the way they spent time together was always cautious. Her mother was afraid of being discovered by the Countess. Little Liar, however, felt that the Countess did not like her, so she probably would not care that much. How could the Countess not like you? You're so beautiful and so adorable. Little Liar knew that in this Count's household, only her mother would think that way. But the truth was not like that. The very next day, she was summoned to the Countess. Liar immediately felt a bad premonition and hurriedly thought back on whether she had made mistakes in her recent studies. Because in the past, the Countess had never taken the initiative to summon her. Don't be so afraid. I just feel that I've been too cold to you before, and now I want to take a little better care of you. Have you had anything troubling you lately? Liar did not know why the Countess suddenly asked this. I see that lately you seem to enjoy spending time with that nanny. Why do you like being with the nanny, but refuse to stay with mommy? After hearing this, Liar was terrified. Spending time with her biological mother was the only time she could catch her breath, but she did not dare say any of this out loud. The Countess then said, "If you are unwilling to keep me company, then get out of my sight." Little Liar was still comforting herself in her heart, thinking the Countess was probably not truly angry. But the way she looked at the time really was very wrong. That night, her mother came to Liar's room. Looking at her sleeping daughter's face, she apologized through tears in a low voice.
I'm sorry.
Mommy clearly said I would protect you for a lifetime. Then she gently placed the pendant into Liar's hand. It seems I no longer have any way to keep that promise. When she woke up the next day, all Liar saw was the pendant her mother had left behind. She instantly understood that something had happened and hurriedly called loudly for the nanny. And sure enough, a different person came. She could only ask in a trembling, tearful voice where the previous nanny had gone. I think you should eat breakfast first. Madam will not like seeing you like this. Little Liar immediately understood that the Countess must have done something. She immediately wiped away her tears and wanted to go see the Countess. Now, she had to beg for the Countess's forgiveness. The moment she reached the reception room, she immediately knelt before the Countess. It's all my fault.
Please give her back to me.
What exactly have I taken from you for you to want so badly to see your mother? I heard that the ducal house in the north is looking for servants, so I sent her there. Don't be so upset. I plan to go to the place where she works this summer. Would you like to come with me? The Count also added from the side, this is a chance to visit the Duke's house.
His son is still just a little boy now.
I hope you can attract his attention and enchant him with your face. Consider it repayment for us raising you. The memory ended here, while the Count before her was still going on and on to himself. If you don't want your husband to know about your lowly origins, Liar directly retorted, the Duke would not care about such things at all. Then what if you knew that he is the son of the murderer who killed your mother? Liar, you'd better obediently listen to me. If your actions disturb your mother's grave, I think she would surely be very sad. Liar had never imagined that the Count could be vile to such an extent. She even thought that perhaps in the past, this was exactly how he had threatened the original Liar again and again, and in the end forced her step by step into her tragic ending. But she was different now. She would no longer be easily threatened by a few words from the Count. Without the slightest courtesy, she ordered that he be thrown out of the ducal house. Hearing this, the guards immediately rushed in. They directly restrained the Count, who was still cursing non-stop. Little Cuddy also hurriedly pushed the door open and came in to check on his mother. By the time they went to sleep that night, he had even specially brought over his doll. Mommy, are you okay? I specially brought my favorite teddy bear to cheer you up. Liar was deeply moved. At a time like this, the little one was actually comforting her instead. Before Daddy comes back, can I sleep with you? Liar agreed to her son's request. It had already been a long time since they had spent time together like this. Looking at her son's well-behaved appearance, and then thinking of the indifference she had once shown him, She could not help wondering how heartbroken the child must have been then. "Cuddy, do you hate mommy?" Hearing this, the little one lowered his head and fell silent for a moment. "Before, you did many things that made me sad, but you never once gave me a hug. Then it seems I really was a bad mother. But even though mommy was cold before, I still always liked mommy. Back then I kept thinking, if only you could smile at me. But then one day, mommy really started smiling at me, and at first I was actually still very angry. You had been like that before, and then suddenly you started treating me so well. But later I wasn't anymore because I really, really love mommy. Even now, I still love you most." Holding her adorable son, Lyre had in fact already remembered everything while speaking with the Count earlier. She remembered everything, and even saw that winter witch again. At that time, holding the only keepsake her mother had left her. She had begged the witch to let her go back and see her mother one more time. But unexpectedly, the witch refused that request, yet was willing to give Lyre 1 year. At that time, she felt that without her mother, even if she continued living, time itself had no meaning. But the witch smiled and said Lyre was lying, and wanted to make a bet with her. "If you're really that certain, then you definitely won't lose. I will give you a new life, and it won't require any price. There, you will no longer be swallowed by sorrow and pain, but instead have a calm life filled with love. What do you think?" Her thoughts returned, and Lyre looked at the son in her arms, remembering that every day in the past had been so painful that she could not bear it. That was why she had thought about whether she could change everything and return to her mother's side once more. "But I can't do that, because only then will your future not become so tragic." Before, she had thought that the torn wings in the novel referred to the heroine imprisoned in the Duke's household. But that was not the truth. The one whose wings were truly torn off was Cuddy, and the one behind all of it was none other than herself. At the same time, Lyre also realized that she had not been reincarnated into the original Lyre. From beginning to end, Lyre had always been herself. She had merely been changed by the Winter Witch's magic. Now that she remembered everything, it was also time to bring this wager with the witch to an end. Lyre knew that she would no longer live as she had before, because from now on, there were 2 lovely boys who were always waiting for her and always loving her. From now on, I will also let them know just how much I love them. After finishing matters on the battlefield, the Duke's first thought was to hurry home immediately. He was afraid that Lyre might be hurt because of the Count. The quick-witted knights, however, advised the Duke not to rush back just yet, saying that after coming back from so far away, if he brought no gift, Madame would surely be disappointed. Only then did the Duke remember such a thing, so he hurried to the nearby market. A short while later, he returned under everyone's gaze, having bought a whole bulging bag of jewelry, yet still feeling that not a single piece suited Lyre. The knights were all worried that this hopelessly unromantic man of steel of a leader would end up returning empty-handed. Just then, the Duke noticed a flower stall by the roadside. He directly bought all the purple hydrangeas on the stall. Then he led everyone back without stopping for even a moment. But his heart was still full of unease, fearing that Lyre had already recovered her memories and turned back into how she used to be, that she would never welcome him again the way she had last time. But reality was not like that. His wife and son were already waiting at the door early. The moment Lyre saw her husband return, she immediately stepped forward to tell him how much she missed him. The little one also quickly ran over to welcome Daddy. "While I was away, did you protect mommy well?" Cuddy did not know how to answer for a moment. Lyre quickly said, "Of course. He was like a shining knight. He protected mommy very well all the time, didn't he? Also, Kian, what are you holding in your hand?" The Duke shyly said that it was a gift for Lyre, because seeing them made him think of her. After they went back, the maid arranged all the flowers in vases. Looking at those flowers, Lyre suddenly grew melancholy. She asked the maid, "If you were trapped in a twisted relationship, but it was neither your fault nor your partner's fault, then what should you do? If it were you, what would you do?" "I think it still depends on the situation. If it's a problem that can be solved, I would do my utmost to solve it. If it can't be solved, then I would cut it off with my own hands." Lyre also felt that the maid's words made a lot of sense, but she still wanted more to solve the problem. At this time, the maid seemed to have guessed something as well and asked whether Lyre had recovered her memory. Lyre had no intention of hiding it either, and plainly said that after the Count came, she remembered everything. The next second, however, she felt a level of anger from the maid she had never seen before. That vicious Count traveled all the way here just to torment Madame, and that's why your memories returned. I need to hurry and find the holy water. I must cleanse the evil energy that vile Count left behind. Lyre was stunned by the maid's reaction. "Why are you not worried at all that I've recovered my memories, and instead so angry?" "My lady," the maid said even more angrily, "of course I am. I can't even imagine how many excessive things he must have said in order to help you recover your memories. That must have been a huge blow to you, my lady. Of course, I was also worried whether, after recovering your memories, you would turn back into how you were before. But back then, your eyes were empty and cold. And now, They're filled with warmth and love. Just as you said before, even if you recover your memories, you won't change. All right, now I'm going to give Free a deep cleaning. Lyre watched helplessly as the maid ran off into the distance. She looked at the flowers before her and thought of the Duke again. Perhaps it had been too long since they last met, because she kept feeling that the Duke seemed even more handsome. After putting Cuddy to sleep that night, she prepared to return to her room and wait for the Duke. But to her surprise, the Duke was already sitting on the bed. "I just came back from the battlefield. No matter how strong I am, I can't keep working all the time." As he spoke, he casually pulled his wife into his arms and lowered his head to kiss her. "I think about you every day, and my greatest wish is to see Lyre again." Lyre hurriedly told the Duke to stop saying such embarrassing sweet words. However, in such a beautiful moment, there is something very important I want to tell you. That is, I have remembered everything. When the Duke heard the servants' report during the day, he had actually already vaguely guessed it. So he asked his wife what exactly the Count had said to her. He came to ask for money. The Duke had not expected that the Count had come once again just to ask for money. "I won't let him bully you anymore. I can't bear to see you suffer because of him again. If I still have the chance to do that." Lyre could feel that when her husband said this, even his hands were trembling.
I'm sorry.
"I don't want to see you hate me the way you used to." Lyre gently held the Duke's hand, as if comforting him. "Look at the way I'm looking at you now. Do you see any hatred in my eyes? Let me tell you, even if I remember everything, I will still let you see my gentle side. What do you think? Have I done well? Can you believe me now?" Only after his wife said this did the Duke finally feel relieved and ask for her forgiveness. "You found out that I am the son of the man who caused your mother's death, yet you were still forced to stay with me. Can you forgive me?" The Duke's words made Lyre recall her childhood memories once again. The Countess promised little Lyre that she could take her to visit the Duke's estate, where she might be able to see her mother, who worked there as a maid. "But if you dare make me lose face, then you won't get another chance. Stay in your room until tomorrow, and you are not allowed to eat either." Little Lyre had not expected that she would have to go hungry again today. But even so, being able to go to the Duke's estate was already the greatest comfort to her. So the Countess took little Lyre to the Duke's estate. This was also the first time Lyre met the young Duke. The two ladies wanted to talk, so they sent both children away. Lyre was overjoyed because it meant she could finally go look for her mother. But this was the Duke's estate after all, and she had no idea where her mother was. So she could only brace herself and ask the young Duke beside her, "Have you heard of a maid named Sheena? I'm curious where she works." The Duke knew this person, but had no intention of telling Lyre directly. "I cannot casually tell others any information related to the Duke estate's privacy." However, something like this was no challenge for Lyre at all. "Then you don't have to tell me. You can just take me on a tour directly." The Duke had clearly not expected that. In the end, he could only helplessly become Lyre's guide. But after only a few days, this girl actually came again. "Last time we went to the lake in the back garden. It was too big. So today let's look around the other side." And so, several times in a row, the Duke patiently took Lyre around the estate each time. Instead, it was Lyre who lost patience first and wanted the Duke to directly tell her where the person was. The Duke did not understand why Lyre was so determined to see a maid. For a moment, Lyre did not know how to explain it either. She could not exactly say directly that it was her mother. "She used to be my nanny in the estate, so we're very close." After hearing that, the Duke finally relented. Now is the maid's break time. She should be nearby. Who knew that Lyre was so excited that she actually took a hard fall. As a result, she was mercilessly laughed at by the Duke, but he still helped wipe the mud off her dress. "It's all right. Just be more careful next time." And so, Lyre followed the Duke to the place where the maids rested. At last, she saw her busy mother in a room. When Sheena saw her daughter, she was utterly shocked and hurriedly tried to hide the wounds on her body. After little Lyre pleaded again and again, the Duke finally agreed to take her to see her mother. But what Lyre did not know was that her mother's body was already covered in wounds. In order not to worry her daughter, Sheena lied and said she still had work to do, sending Lyre away. But from then on, little Lyre frequently went to the Duke's house to see her mother. In the end, she still discovered the injuries on her mother's body. In her panic, the only person she could think of was to beg the Duchess. But what she received in return was only a cold response. "That maid already belongs to the Duke's household. Why should I be moved for the sake of a lowly maid?" What made Lyre even more despairing was that all those injuries on her mother's body had actually been inflicted by the Duchess herself. Only then did Lyre finally understand that the Countess had been hiding the truth from her all along, and her only purpose was to make Lyre watch her own mother slowly die with her own eyes. And the Duke had actually known all of this long ago. As she thought about it, tears began to fall uncontrollably. The Duke hurriedly wiped away his wife's tears and kept apologizing. Lyre motioned for the Duke to sit beside her. "I suddenly remembered many things from childhood. Do you know what my first impression of you was? Probably that of a serious and cold air to the Duke's house. Actually, when I first met you, I thought you were not friendly at all, and you kept refusing to tell me where my mother was. But when I was with you, I was truly happy. Every day, I found excuses to wander around the Duke's estate with you, running all over the place." The Duke also could not wait to express his feelings. "Back then, every time you smiled at me, my heart would race. Yet I kept refusing to tell you where that maid was, and I even knew clearly that she was suffering abuse and torment from my mother. I truly regret it deeply. Regret the judgment I made when I was a child. Perhaps if I had told you earlier, we might have been able to save her. But in the end, I made you become a child who lost her mother. Lyre also tried to comfort her husband. She knew that the Duke, who was still just a child at the time, had no ability to protect that maid at all. He had even been brutally beaten by the Duchess himself because of this matter. Now, all the true culprits are already far away from us. I also should not have blamed all those mistakes on you. I'm sorry. I was too harsh on you before, and you don't need to apologize to me anymore, because all this time, I have always loved you. After saying that, Lyre took the initiative to pull her husband closer and gave him a comforting kiss. In order to be a good older brother, Cuddy could only silently talk to his doll. I already said, I want to see Mom. Why won't you let me go? Even when Mom was sick before, she would still come see me. So something must have happened. The little guy hugged his doll, his face full of worry. Could it be because Dad came back that Mom is unhappy? But he quickly rejected that guess himself. Just then, a knock came from outside the door. Cuddy thought it was Mom and ran over excitedly, but unexpectedly, the person who came was Daisy, and that cheerful little face instantly fell. The maid explained that she had come to see whether Cuddy had gone to sleep obediently. I can handle it myself. You may leave. The maid could tell that the little one was upset because he had not seen his mother. Unexpectedly, Cuddy still stubbornly put on a serious face. Young master, may I tell you a secret? And this is something I'm only telling you. Madam is preparing a very wonderful special gift for you. Young master. Little Cuddy was instantly tempted, and his mind kept guessing what his mother might be preparing. The maid deliberately kept him in suspense, but Madam told me I must not tell anyone. But because you are the young master, I'm secretly telling you. Madam wants to give birth to a little brother for you. The little one looked full of disbelief and kept asking whether it was true. He remembered that he had promised his father before that, for the sake of his younger siblings, he could stop sleeping with his mother for now. Then can I go see Mother now? The maid quickly continued, making up the story. When a baby is born, a special bird is needed to witness it. If a husband and wife get along very well, that bird will come visit them. But this bird does not easily bring children. So in order to make it come often, that special bird is very sensitive and will only come at the right time at night, staying until morning. If the bird is frightened away, they will not have any children. In the maid's story, Cuddy innocently believed all of it. I promised father, I want a little brother, and I also know mother is not avoiding me because she dislikes me, so I can endure it for a while. After all, I am someone who will become an older brother sooner or later. Only then did the maid take the expectant-looking Cuddy to bed. The next day, Lyre only felt soreness all over her body. She did not notice at all that a figure was approaching from behind as lightly as floating steps. As a result, she was startled badly again. I was worried that you weren't feeling well, so I came here especially. But aren't you busy today? To me, nothing is more important than you. However, I want to know what exactly the Count said to you that day. He said that if I did not give him money, he would tell you that I was born a commoner. But you actually already knew my past. When I was little, I told you that Shino was not my nanny but my mother. The Duke never expected that the Count would threaten Lyre with such a matter. I had no other choice. He even threatened me, saying he would tear down my mother's grave. From the very beginning, I wanted to refuse him, but he kept threatening me with this. For a very long time, I was trying to find a way to get rid of him. Before getting married, I was also often abused by the Count. Most of the time he made me go hungry, and sometimes he even hit me. After hearing this, the Duke pulled his wife into his arms with heartache. And because of that, I started blaming everything on you. So many things happened at home, and you came too late, so I hated you very much. I'm very sorry that I hurt you back then. Now, I hope both you and Cuddy can forgive me. The Duke hurriedly comforted his wife, saying that now everything was fine, and everyone who loved her was by her side. However, there is one more thing I want to tell you. I know where your mother is buried. It turned out that the Duke and Lyre had always been each other's salvation. The Duke had always felt guilty for not being able to take good care of Sheena when he was little, so later, he personally gave her a proper burial. Unexpectedly, her mother, who had been a maid, had actually been properly buried, and the Count had been lying to her all along. When we have the chance next time, let's go visit her together. Before this, the Duke had always worried that his wife would not believe this, so he could only quietly protect it alone. Lyre was deeply moved by her husband's silent devotion, because at that time, he had only been a child as well. When the Duke was young, he was often beaten and scolded by his mother, so he felt that Lyre's appearance was like a ray of light. From then on, he was no longer alone. It was his wife who saved that miserable and lonely childhood. Meanwhile, the Count's situation was not so good. His nephew barged straight into his house. The Count angrily wanted to throw him out, but it was completely useless. I already said it, I have no designs on your title of Count. Because I took the Duke's money, I have to take good care of you. Afterward, he called in the guards and had the Count tied up. This is the price you pay for being greedy for so long and taking advantage of others at every turn. Don't worry, I'll throw your corpse deep into the forest and disguise it as a carriage accident. The Count never imagined that he would end up like this. A few days later, Liar's body had already recovered. After hearing this, the maid excitedly took out a letter. It was sent by Lady Finel. Would you like to read it yourself? As soon as Liar heard that, she immediately opened the letter impatiently. She had long been waiting to enjoy tea and snacks together once she felt better. Who would have thought that after reading the letter, Liar's expression became serious. I think we need to start preparing for something very important. A very adorable child is about to arrive at the estate. The maid immediately guessed that it was Lady Finel's daughter. Liar kept telling the maid just how adorable that child was. We must make complete preparations to welcome them. The maid also excitedly said that she would definitely bring out the best pastries and tea to entertain them. However, she was still a little confused. Why did both Lady Finel and the child call Madame a fairy in the letter? Liar instantly became very embarrassed. However, when she was little, she had always hoped that a fairy would come save her too, but that wish had never come true. So now, being able to fulfill little Nia's wish from childhood really made her happy. A fairy may not be a real person, but there will always be someone like a fairy, unwilling to watch others suffer. Liar quietly looked out at the sky beyond the window. Mother, I miss you very much, but it will still be a very, very long time before we meet again. I must first take good care of my child and my husband. They are the people I love most, so mother, please wait for me a little longer. Early in the morning, she dressed her son neatly. She even specially reminded him that 2 very important guests would be arriving soon. In Liar's mind, the scene of the 2 little ones meeting had already appeared. She was even wondering whether Cuddy would fall in love with Nia at first sight. In the original story, their first meeting was not pleasant, but this time, many things had already changed. A little girl about your age will be coming later. Can you take good care of her? As soon as the little one heard it was a girl, his expression instantly became a little frightened. He even muttered softly that girls were all troublesome. Liar made another promise with her son, asking him to be a little nicer to Nia. Cuddy also obediently hooked his finger with his mother's hand, because he had never broken a promise he made with his mother. Liar knew very well how well-behaved her son was, so she promised him that after it was over, she would make his favorite walnut pie for him. The little one's eyes instantly lit up, and he promised that he would definitely do it. Very soon, Lady Finel's carriage entered the estate. Holding her mother's hand, Nia stepped down from the carriage. Seeing this scene, both mistress and servant could not help crying out inwardly. This child had been dressed up as adorably as a little cake. At the very first moment they met, Nia loudly called out Miss Fairy. As soon as that form of address came out, the servants behind them began to speculate whether Madame was really as beautiful as a fairy. Long time no see, Miss Fairy. I have wanted to come visit you for a long time. Hearing fairy again and again, Liar was immersed in it while also feeling terribly shy. After hesitating for a moment, she still asked the child not to call her a fairy anymore. Nia hurriedly covered her mouth and explained that she had not meant to expose the fairy's identity. She was even afraid that the fairy would take back her good luck. Liar was instantly charmed by how adorable she was. Children really are this innocent and pure. She had just wanted to reply when Cuddy stepped in front of her. Please stay away from my mother. She is not your fairy. She is my mother. Please do not trouble her. The warm scene Liar had imagined completely changed flavor. However, Lady Finel looked much better than last time. Yes, all of this is thanks to you, Duchess. After saying that, she taught her daughter that before speaking, she should first greet people politely. The sensible little girl immediately remembered her mother's words. Nia also apologized to Cuddy at once. I can understand how you feel. Can the little duke forgive me? You already apologized to my mother just now, so it's fine. Besides, I also promised mother that I would take care of you, but I frightened you just now. After hearing this, Nia became happy again and grabbed the boy's hand in front of her. I'm very happy that you are the second friend my age that I've met. We will definitely have a lot of fun today. Though Cuddy looked dissatisfied on the surface at having his hand grabbed by a girl, he never pulled it back. Liar saw through her son's thoughts, so she suggested that he take Nia around the Duke's residence. Just like that, the 2 little ones exchanged names. Cuddy even allowed the girl to call him by his nickname. Watching the 2 of them leave, Liar knew that her son definitely liked Nia. At this moment, only the 2 ladies remained where they stood. Finel had many questions and wanted to ask Liar in person. So the 2 of them came to the reception room, and before asking any questions, I want to thank you personally first, because you are not only the Duchess, but also a kind fairy. Lady Finel kept expressing her gratitude to Liar. Her greatest wish was to watch Nia grow up safely, but her health had been getting worse day by day. Thanks to the flowers Liar sent, she was now able to go out like this with her daughter. Liar remembered how this family had ended in her previous life and understood even more clearly how deeply Lady Finel loved her child. I believe that if someone else knew about this matter, they would also be willing to help. However, this also made Lady Finel feel confused. To outsiders, she merely seemed weak, and very few people knew her true illness. How did Liar know about it? In the novel, Nia had the same illness as her mother. Cuddy searched the entire continent for this, and only finally found a way to cure her. But this could not be said yet. Liar could only come up with a temporary reason. Looking at you, you do not seem naturally frail, but rather as though you have some kind of illness. I happen to hear that moonlight flowers can remove toxins from the body. Hearing Liar say this, Lady Finel became even more shaken instead. "It was you who let me see hope for living again. Now I can finally accompany my daughter as she grows up, and I can also eat the food I like." Just as the two mothers were imagining the future, the two little ones had already arrived in the courtyard. Nia, with her chatterbox nature in full force, followed behind the whole way. The endless stream of questions gave Cuddy a bit of a headache, but he still took Nia to his secret dessert base, and the servants following behind had already made ample preparations. After seeing the two sit down, they immediately served tea, snacks, and cake. The young master had clearly already won Miss Nia's heart. Faced with a group of servants wildly shipping the pair, Cuddy was embarrassed beyond measure. Nia, meanwhile, was full of interest in the desserts before her. Unable to wait, she picked up the strawberry cake and happily started tasting it. Cuddy sat across from her and watched quietly, unable to stop himself from thinking, when Nia is quiet, she is really cute. At that moment, he noticed that some cream had gotten on the corner of the girl's mouth. So, very gentlemanly, he handed her his handkerchief. Only then did Nia realize she had been impolite. She had originally wanted to be elegant like a lady, but she had still messed it up. Seeing how flustered the girl was, Cuddy quickly comforted her, saying that they were both still children and did not need to be like adults. Nia was also touched by this boy who looked cold on the outside but was soft on the inside. She felt that Cuddy was sweet too, just like the Duchess. Those words instantly made the little one blush. However, the words "just like mother" also pleased him very much, and he even thought the girl had very good taste. Innocent and simple, she really was a very special girl. But the next second, he suffered a critical blow. Other than Redis, "You are my only friend my age. His mother and my mother are good friends, so we often see each other. Redis is especially gentle, and I really like playing with him." These words instantly made Cuddy a little unhappy. "Do you usually tell everyone that you like them?" Nia hurriedly explained that she did not say she liked everyone. It was only that when she was with Redis, she felt very happy. The girl's sweet smile made Cuddy calm down on the surface, but inside, he felt even more upset. Nia had actually said in front of him how much she liked being with Redis. The slow-to-realize girl finally noticed that Cuddy seemed unhappy. So, as if comforting him, she gently patted his head. "Every time I get angry, when my mother does this, I feel much better. Could it be that you do not like being patted like this by others?" Little Cuddy was already completely thrown into inner chaos, but on the surface he still maintained his composure and rejected the girl's comfort. Yet in his heart, he had already completely acknowledged this special girl. Seeing the two little ones getting along so well, Lyre and the maid both felt incomparably gratified. Their usually aloof son had actually taken the initiative to invite the little girl to come play again next time. He even said that next time he would prepare strawberry cake in advance. Even little Cuddy himself did not understand why such emotions arose in him when facing Nia. Faced with this lively and cheerful girl, he was completely helpless. Nia suddenly leaned closer and asked Cuddy why he did not just call her by her name. "We are already friends now, so you can just call me Nia." The little one blushed and called out the girl's name. The maid not far away was practically losing her mind shipping them. At this time, the two little ones also realized that it was already getting late. Nia directly pulled Cuddy along and ran off to find their mothers. The two ladies also warmly said goodbye to each other. Nia even asked Cuddy whether she could come play with him again in the future. And the little one's answer was also unexpected. "I will have the chef prepare strawberry cake and wait for you to come." This also finally made Lyre completely relieved. It seemed that the events in the future plot probably would not happen again. Early one morning a few days later, Lyre was awakened from her sleep by a commotion. When she leaned by the window to look, she saw the maid and Cuddy holding holy water with determined expressions. She suddenly remembered what the maid had said some time ago. Unexpectedly, they were actually spraying holy water everywhere, and not just with one small bottle, but with a large bottle each. Although the Duke's household was indeed very rich, they could not spend money like this. As soon as Lyre went out, she saw a guard standing outside. He was also surprised that Madame had gotten up so early today. Lyre explained that she had been awakened by the noise outside, so she came out to see what was happening. Who would have thought that the guard also took out a small bottle of holy water and said that today all the servants would be doing a big cleaning with holy water. Looking at the bottle that was already more than half empty, Lyre knew that the guard must have taken part too. Of course, we cannot let anything bad happen to Madame. To be honest, I do not know whether this counts as wasting money, but I definitely have to join in. Lyre could not help sighing that the people in the estate were truly too good to her. Is there any holy water left over? The guard thought Madame wanted to join them as well. No, I just do not want to see such expensive holy water all wasted on the floor. The guard then agreed to send all the remaining holy water to Lyre's room. Meanwhile, the maid and Cuddy's enthusiasm for this task was astonishingly high. At a glance, Lyre quickly slipped away quietly, afraid that if they noticed her, they would drag her along to spray too. And drag her along to spray too. Suddenly, she touched her empty neck and only then remembered the necklace with her mother's photo. She had not seen it for a long time. In her memory, she had once used this necklace in an exchange with the witch, but the details of that period were still very blurry. She did not know why either, but she always felt that her life now should not be this happy. Yet no matter what exactly she had forgotten, she just could not remember. As she was thinking, she was interrupted by her husband's voice. Unexpectedly, he was still as elusive as ever. The Duke explained that he just happened to be going out for something. But more importantly, you look troubled. Did something happen? You do not need to bear it alone. I am your husband. No matter what happens, you can tell me. Hearing this, the blonde aide rushed out like a rocket, shouting as he ran, "Master, please do not worry. Just speak freely with Madam." The Duke complained helplessly that he had not told him to do that at all. "However, to me, truly nothing is more important than you. Could it be that you are angry with me?" Looking at her husband's pitiful expression, like a little puppy, Lyre quickly said no. But she did not want him to worry again about her memories, so she could only make up another excuse on the spot. "I do not like the way you address me." This young couple really did have all sorts of romantic antics. Because she did not want her husband to continue worrying about her memories, Lyre used the excuse that she did not like the way he addressed her. "Recently, I met a noble lady, and her husband does not call her directly by her name." The straight-laced husband first froze for a few seconds. Then he immediately reacted and seriously asked his wife what kind of nickname she wanted. This suggestion was exactly what Lyre wanted. Blushing, Lyre suggested things like darling, sweetheart, or baby. "Please choose one as the special way we address each other. I also want to have a nickname between husband and wife like Lady Finel does." Who would have thought that the Duke would say, "My opinion is not important, you can keep calling me Kian." Only then did Lyre suddenly remember. Kian was originally a nickname. At the time, she could not think of his full name, so she had remembered this one first. "In that case, then you can call me darling." The next second, the Duke naturally called her by that pet name. Lyre simply could not believe it. The Duke could directly say such an embarrassing term of endearment without changing his expression at all. Instead, she herself was embarrassed beyond measure. At this moment, Lyre remembered the assistant, who had just run off. Would it not be bad to make him wait too long? But the Duke said to just let him wait. So after the two talked, they also agreed to go visit Mother's grave together a few days later. A few days later, the family of three was on the way to the cemetery. Little Cuddy was puzzled about where exactly they were going today. Mother looked as if she was very sad. So could the person they were going to see also be as troubling as grandfather? "The person we are going to see is very important to Mother." Although the little one still did not quite understand, he did not continue asking. Just like that, the three of them finally arrived at their destination. Looking at the place where her mother rested, Lyre could tell at a glance how attentive the Duke had been. The place had been well cared for. After seeing all this, Lyre immediately ran to her mother's tombstone. The Duke also, thoughtfully, left his wife enough time. He himself took Cuddy and slowly walked in the nearby forest. Little Cuddy did not understand. They had clearly said they were coming to see someone, but now they had not seen anyone at all. This may still be a little hard for you to understand, since you are still a child. Cuddy was very dissatisfied that his father treated him like a child. "I am the heir of the family, so of course I am capable of learning and understanding." The Duke touched the little one's head. "But the way you are acting now only proves even more that you are still very young." "Then when can we go back to Mother?" "We still need to wait a little longer. Mother still needs a bit more time now." "Then there is something I am curious about. Grandfather treated Mother so badly. Do not worry. He will not come to our house again in the future. In fact, grandfather has already passed away. However, Mother still does not know this. Let us keep this secret for her for now." "Understood. I will keep it secret. If Mother ends up disliking you again because of something, I will be in a difficult position. After all, that special bird will bring my little brothers and sisters, on the condition that you and Mother must be very loving." Those words directly stunned the Duke. The little one continued seriously warning his father, "If you two argue again, then I will not have any younger brothers or sisters." Only then did the Duke realize that the maid must have told the child something again. Meanwhile, the little one was still muttering seriously, "I have already fulfilled my promise, and I hope you will fulfill yours too." A light drizzle suddenly began to fall from the sky, and at this time, Lyre once again saw her mother. "Mother, long time no see. Now, I have children of my own too. In the past, you were always the person I loved most. Now, there are also many people who love me, so now I am going to live a life without regrets. I'm sorry it took me so long to come see you. But even so, I still love you most, more than anyone else." Children do not truly understand what death is, but he knew that this must be someone very important to Mother. Seeing the rain getting heavier and heavier, Cuddy hurried over to check on his mother. But at a glance, he saw his mother's slightly reddened eyes. In order not to make the child worry, Lyre could only say that it was because she had gotten caught in the rain. "Then let's hurry home now." "All right, but before that, can you first pay your respects to her? Just say that you are my dearest son." Cuddy looked at the tombstone in confusion, but there was clearly no one there, because she went on a journey to a very, very distant planet. The little one immediately said he understood and seriously began thinking about what to say. Hello, I am Mother's most beloved son. My name is Cuddy. In the future, I will become a duke even greater than father. After saying this, the duke draped a coat over his son. It seems my son is quite ambitious, but before that, you must first learn how to protect yourself. Afterward, he draped another coat over Lyre and softly asked his wife whether she felt any better. I am very glad that we finally had the chance to come here together. I'm sorry to have kept you waiting so long. I will definitely make her the happiest woman, so you do not need to worry. Rest in peace. Looking at her husband, Lyre knew that every time he had come here before, he had probably also spoken to Mother. So she reached out and held her husband's and son's hands, gently introducing them. Mother, look, this is my lovely son. And this one is my beloved husband. Today, we came to see you together. I am living very happily now. I smile happily every day, so you do not need to worry. Rest well. I will also come visit you often in the future. At night, when Lyre returned to her room, she felt unusually cold. She thought that perhaps she was simply too tired today, and before long, she fell asleep. But in her dream, she came to a world of ice and snow. When she turned her head, she saw that long-lost photo locket. She chased after it all the way, but then saw her former self holding the pendant, begging the witch to let her see her mother one more time. Unfortunately, she is already dead, and that is something I cannot do, but I can turn time back 1 year. Lyre felt that since she could not see her mother, then turning time back would be meaningless. Unexpectedly, the witch said that she was a liar. Why would I lie to you? I heard that the Winter Witch knows everything. It seems that rumor is false. Then do you dare make a bet with me? Let's see whether everything will really be as you say, or whether you are the liar. I will give you a brand new life. If everything is truly as you say, then you will not lose. Everyone there will love you very much. Do you want to try it? Perhaps you can no longer live together with your mother, but you can still sit down and enjoy a life surrounded by love. In the end, Lyre agreed to this wager. That is wonderful. Then let us make this bet. I will let you live a completely different life. However, I will not erase your past memories. To prove that I know everything, and also to prove that as long as you forget the past you can obtain happiness, I will give you a choice. To live a carefree and happy new life, or to recover your memories and become the original Lyre again. If in the end, you still want to live as Lyre, then that will prove that I won this wager. At that time, Lyre was absolutely convinced that once she had a new life, she would definitely abandon her past identity. Moreover, she firmly believed that she would absolutely not lose. Then let this serve as collateral for our wager. At that very moment, Lyre suddenly woke from the dream. She did not know what exactly this dream meant. If she once again chose to continue living as Lyre, then what kind of price would she have to pay?